I'm here with mayoral candidate and current third ward councilman Will Fahoury, and we're going to be talking a little bit about his candidacy and his campaign. So, thanks, Will, and we'll just get right into it.
Oh yeah.
So, you're a sitting councilman, and you're running for mayor. So, why do you want to run for mayor? And with that, as a councilman, you have a vote right now. As a mayor, you would not be able to vote unless there was a tie. So, why would you want to give up the one seat where you have an active role in getting laws passed? So, in cooperation with that, why do you want to run for mayor?
So, I want to run for mayor. One, I love Roosevelt Park. It's my home. It's where I grew up. It's where I want to raise my family. And, you know, I want to lead Roosevelt Park as a council. Now, I understand I have my one vote, where, as if I'm a mayor, I don't have that vote. But the ability to lead the town in the direction that I think, it's my opinion, that I think that will put us into the right direction, into the right future, I would rather be the leader of that town as opposed to a sitting councilman, because I'm only the leader of the residents of the third ward.
Okay.
And if I become mayor, I could be the leader of the entire borough. And the mayor, the person is, what's the word for it? The mayor he's the embodiment of the borough.
Okay.
So
He's
that face.
He's the head of the borough, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
Right?
He's
so
that.
they call him. Right. Okay.
He's that guy.
So what do you think? Like, what do you think the job of a mayor is then? If you're saying that it's not to vote, it's kind of like to lead. So like, what other jobs would a mayor have? Like, what are the responsibilities you think?
Excuse me. Ooh, sorry. So, responsibility of the mayor is to lead, first and foremost, and secondly, the mayor is that not only the face of Roosevelt Park, but he is that face, or I'm only saying he because there's three males running for.
There's nobody
mayor.
running for any office until it's not a woman, right? Except for the board, but
yeah.
You're right.
So if I use he, I apologize, but he's that face on the outside too. So me as third ward councilman, I'm not getting invited to.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
A mayor's dinner or
Gotcha.
to like a conference about.
No one calls up and says, "I want to talk to the third ward councilman." They would say,
"I want to speak to the mayor."
Gotcha. But then you have presidents who say, "I want to speak to the mayor too."
Yeah.
He's not always happy. So.
But it's just that I mean, the mayor.
Figurehead. That's the word.
It's
figurehead. Right.
And for lack of a better term, because we do have a strong council, a weak mayor form of government, and I think it's better than other towns, to where you have, for example, like Elizabeth, Mayor Bolage. Nothing gets done without his approval.
Right.
And in my opinion, that, as a motorcycle runs by, that's not conducive to good democracy, to having a strong, lack of a better term, executive branch. Because let's be honest,
that's what it is.
It's an executive branch.
And council is
the
legislative branch, right?
Yeah. So just being that leader and not letting ego get in the way of, just not letting your ego get in the way of I guess, making what am I trying to say? You can't have an ego.
Right. And we talked about this when you were running for councilman.
Yeah.
Because I had talked about, and you had said that you had been in life and death situations where someone telling you to go F yourself or trying to get your go, right?
Yeah.
You know how to contain that. And have you been able, as a councilman, like I haven't heard of any blow-ups, everyone saying, that councilman before just went off on me. So
no,
I guess that's what you're trying to get at, that you have to maintain, I guess, a course. Right?
Yes, you have to maintain that face.
Okay.
And I'll go back to when I was in the Marine Corps. It's a mask, and it really is, because no matter how bad or how good something is going, you can't let your emotions get the best of you.
Okay.
You can't. I mean, a perfect example, and we'll be talking about it later, is the Christmas tree controversy,
Right.
the kneeling soldier.
And you have stated you had your own personal opinions about those things.
Yeah, and both of those, if you break it down simply, it was a battle of egos between Mayor Hoganson and Councilwoman Story at the time. And obviously there's a couple of other, we'll get into that later, but
Right.
that's just my opinion. And you need to be that calm, soothing person, that leader that the town needs.
And you felt you've done that as a councilman too, that you've, like again, I've never
Yes.
heard of any blow-ups where like, and I've never seen them in any meetings where you've just gone off on anyone.
No,
Right.
I've only one time in closed session.
Okay. And that's away from the public, so.
Yeah, and we'll get
Okay, we'll get into that later.
into that later. Yes, the one time, and it wasn't really like I was screaming. I got to that point, like, it's. We'll get to
Okay,
it.
all right. And just as a person, we talked about some things, but beyond your work as a council and elected representative, for those who don't know who you are, who's Will?
So
You said you're Roseville Parker. Well, not
No.
you were born. You lived in Roseville Park, or raised in Roseville Park, went to Roseville Park schools.
yes,
And you stated you came back when you came back from. So go ahead.
yeah. So William Fahoury, besides me being on council, third ward councilman and council president, as Saul said, I'm 26 years old, born and raised in Roseville Park. I was not in Roseville Park for 4 years because I was in the Marine Corps. I served in the infantry. I deployed to Afghanistan, Okinawa, and the Philippines. I was stationed out of Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, which is in Jacksonville, North Carolina, not Jacksonville, Florida. Jay Vegas. But yeah, and I came back. I got out of the Marine Corps because I served my purpose. There was no more war to fight, so I figured I can better serve. Well, honestly, when I got out of the Marine Corps, I didn't know that I was gonna be a council person or even anything.
I think it happened because the councilman who
dumb luck.
was going to run had said, I'm dropping out.
Yeah, so Ryan Kelly just said I'm not running, and I asked him. I was like, oh, this might be something I can do and do well. And I reached out to him. He's like, yeah, they don't have anyone right now, so I'll definitely throw your name into the fray. But yeah, so I got in the Marine Corps.
And you've gotten your release, right?
Yeah, I
Officially.
got my official.
Because even though
honorable
you're
discharge and
out,
everything, yeah.
you still have
You have your 4 years active and then 4 years inactive.
and you're
Yeah,
done.
I had 1 year. I did 1 year inactive actually in high school.
Okay.
Because I enlisted. It
Actually,
was like May 2017.
the day after graduation, you left. Right?
3 days after I went to boot camp.
Okay.
And I had 3 years inactive afterwards. But
Okay.
yeah, now I'm done.
So okay.
And there's only one. I tell people all the time. There's only 2 ways you'll get rid of me on council. The first one is you don't vote for me, and I lose.
Right.
The second one is if my country, if the Marine Corps, if we get attacked or something,
Right.
and the country needs me, in the heartbeat, I'll be on the next flight back.
Because that's
to-
one of that's I think we spoke before that, and we spoke personally. That's the main reason, right? Because of September 11th.
That's
that
one of
really
the-
because you were a youngster, and that really embedded in your mind and,
Yeah,
and in
so-
your heart.
Yeah, and my father's cousin's husband actually died in 9/11.
Okay.
And also I remember, and even just, this is my opinion, there's two different, I grew up in the 90s and then September 11th, 2001 changed everything. It shattered my innocence, and everyone's innocence at that time when they were kids. I mean, I was in 4th grade. I remember it because I was outside gym class at Robert Gordon, and all the teachers, because no one had any idea what was going on, and rushed everyone inside. My dad came and picked us up from school, and we just watched it on TV. Watched the people just jumping out,
Right.
just for whatever reason, and then they started to come down, and that anger. I mean, I was mad.
Right.
Like, why would someone do this when I have never done anything to them, or like any of those 3,000 people
Right.
that lost their lives? What have they ever done to deserve that? And I wanted, thank God I was able to go to Afghanistan, because it was looking like when Barack Obama got elected president that he wanted to pull out of Afghanistan entirely. That's for a different time. But he did approve a troop surge to Afghanistan, and I was a part of that troop surge. And I got the opportunity to bring the fight to the Taliban and to Al Qaeda, and no one can ever take that away from me.
So you said that would be the second wave, if heaven forbid, and that ever happens. But that's how seriously you take, I guess, you're talking about counsel. It's like that's what I'm going. You're going to dedicate yourself. Like you get voted out, or there's another attack that calls for service.
Yeah, and I went from, and since I was 18, I've been in the service of the United States, of Roosevelt Park.
Okay.
And it's my honor to serve. And if with those two reasons, there's no way I'm leaving.
All right. So both as councilman and as mayor. So what is your short-term and your long-term vision for the town that you've grown up in, lived, want to live?
Yeah.
Both. What in the foreseeable future and in the future that 30 years down the line.
So short term, you're saying like 5 years.
Yeah. Or let's say your next. So let's say you're mayor the next 4 years. What's your goal for the next 4 years?
So short term. So 4 years. Now I've had this talk with a couple of people, with our economic development director, about our vision.
Okay.
What I envision is be very picturesque.
Okay.
Getting off the train station, newly renovated train station that NJ Transit finally will get off their butts and do. But that's another question. But getting off the train, walking down Chestnut Street, and the way I I told her was going to Atlantic City.
Okay.
When you're driving into Atlantic City, and not necessarily the lights, but just the people that are always there, the shops and all that stuff. Just walking down Chestnut Street, it is the center of our town, and it should be that beacon. It should be that thing that Roosevelt. Oh wow, I want to go to Roosevelt Park to go to.
Like yesterday, there was an arts festival, and the streets were like Chestnut, as a matter of fact, was crowded. I mean that was very because I was there too, and when I was watching, it was very picturesque. It gave me that kind of this is great, right? It was busy, right?
You had a lot of people there. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get there until like 7 o'clock. First, I worked, and then just got into a car accident.
Oh wow!
So.
She okay?
Yeah, she's fine, but she was meeting me. She was meeting me there, and she's gone to next. But that's for a different story. But short term, just not even because that's another question for this, but it's about the right development.
Okay.
And getting the right developers into town.
Okay.
And a big part of the short-term plan is gathering up our codes, cleaning up our codes, because there's a lot of inconsistencies with our codes that relate to construction and building facades, signs, all that kind of stuff. And once we make these changes to the code and to clean it up, then we have to get better code enforcement.
Okay.
It has to be stronger. Because right now, look at Rosa Park now, there's no identity. Rosa Park needs an identity.
Okay.
Its business community needs an identity.
All right.
And with now our newly appointed economic development director, Beth Ann McDonald, she has that experience from Somerville, from Maplewood, transforming downtowns, and it transforms the town.
Okay.
It should be that kind of. It should be a town that others emulate, like other towns say, "Oh wow!" Like how residents say, "I want to be more like Cranford or Westfield."
Right. And I'm sure the people in Cranford are saying, "I wish I was like Westfield." I'm sure the people in Westfield said,
"I wish I was like Summit."
Right.
And then people like Summit.
No one's ever like, "This is the exact place I want to be."
Yeah. And a lot of ways that a lot of this is happening now. This transformation, this short-term plan.
Okay.
Luckily, because I'm council president and councilman, we are able to do these kind of things. Like for example,
And it was it wasn't Will doing everything. You were part of a group, but
Yeah.
you were a cohesive group where, and I talked about this before, like especially with the economic developer. There were multiple meetings, and I was at them,
yeah,
where there was actual negotiations of, well, there was like a give and take, right? So you work as a part of a system, but you're saying, you can work cohesively with groups
yeah.
to get something done.
Yes.
Okay, so go ahead.
So it's as compared to 2017 on council and 2018 on council are night and day,
Really?
in my opinion. Yeah.
Okay.
Because 2017, there was still a lot of fighting. There were a lot of, and this was on the, I'll just call it like it is. There was a lot of infighting on the Democratic side, so they were having their own issues, and it was just Councilman Shipley and I last year trying to get stuff done, and we didn't have a majority, so you can't do a lot of things without,
Right.
as the mayor says, no, if you don't have the horses, you can't really do anything.
Right.
Now with Councilwoman Negron and Councilman Diorio in the fray, we're able to do the things that we need to do to make Roosevelt Park a better place. And one of those things is Transit Village. And getting that Transit Village designation, because that opens up a lot more possibilities for more grant funding, increases property values in Roosevelt Park. It just opens up a lot of doors that help us improve our downtown. Perfect. So an example of, because people ask, what's a transit village?
Right.
It's a state. It's a state designation.
It's a legal designation,
It's a
actually.
legal state designation, and you have to apply for it. It's a long process. We're currently doing the process now. I'm on the Transit Village Committee, and it's a year to 18-month process. And they look for certain criteria. For example, you have to have a train station, mass transit. We have bus routes going to New York, and one bus route directly to New York and then Newark and all the other fun stuff. We have access to the Parkway right there, which is 5 seconds away. We have redevelopment zones plans within 0.5 miles of the train station.
Okay.
We have
You have to have senior accommodations, like
There's certain criteria.
You have to be able to, for pedestrians, right? Because I remembered, like for seniors, because seniors mostly don't drive, so they need kind of public transportation.
Yes.
So you need to have a kind of vibrant, a plan in place to address both that, children, bikers. It's a whole kind of cohesive.
Yeah, and the complete streets policy that ties into Transit Village, Sustainable Jersey, same thing.
And is that something you see within 4 years, the borough getting the transit village?
Yes.
Okay.
I do. I think
That's part of your short-term goal.
Yes.
Okay.
That's part. So an example. So a comparison, because people like to see. Well, what other towns are transit villages? Cranford is a transit village. Summit is a transit village. Somerville, where our economic development director is coming from, is a transit village. There's 33 transit villages in the state.
Out of 566.
Out of 565 municipalities.
Think about that, right? So it's
and so the state every year puts aside $1 million in grant money for transit villages, and in 2017, Summit got a grant to fix up their curbs, their sidewalks in their downtown. They got a $350,000 grant, and they only awarded 5 grants. I mean, only five total grants out of the $1 million. And it's easier to fight with 30 other towns as opposed to 565 other towns. And some of those towns, they're not actively going through it either. Anyway, it's actually no, never mind. But it all ties in with the complete streets. We got a letter from the state. I have it on my computer somewhere. The state congratulating us on our complete streets policy because it will make our streets more bikeable, walkable, more safe, and things of that nature. And the complete streets policy, that's more of a long-term goal.
Okay.
Short and long, because we can't do every street tomorrow. We can't
Right.
repave every street tomorrow. So
Those are expensive.
Yeah.
People kind of, I mean, I don't know if people know, their minimum is $300,000.
Yeah.
Just for a street. And it's not even, it's like a block.
Yeah.
And and I'm sure you know, it's the biggest complaint is a street. People think, well, it's like, have you counted how many streets we actually have in this town?
we have a lot, and we have the only streets that are not borough-owned are Westfield Ave, Chestnut Street, Locust Street, Fayette, and Chiago Place.
Right. Is Lincoln?
Oh, and Lincoln.
And
Yes,
Lincoln,
sorry,
yeah.
and Lincoln.
And Lincoln.
East Lincoln.
Right.
West Lincoln.
West Lincoln. Okay, that's right, because that's where it ends, right?
Yeah.
Right. So, those are your short-term goals. And what do you see long-term? 8 years from now, 12 years from now.
Yeah. So, long-term goals. Long-term goal would be, I guess, you'll see the effects of
Okay.
the short-term plan going into effect. You'll see the fruits of economic development director's labors, her job. The whole department. That's a long-term vision. Is that department is
Okay.
to
Economic development director.
yeah, because we've never in our history ever had an economic development director. We've tried the special improvement district,
Right.
volunteers, this and that. I mean, everything. But this is the only thing we haven't done.
Okay.
And what separates Roosevelt Park from other towns is other towns have this kind of position. Cranford and Westfield, even in Elizabeth,
Right.
Union, and she'll, in 10 years from now, she's going to be, in my opinion, because I was in the interview hiring process and everything, she's going to be very good.
Okay.
And other long-term stuff, 10, 12 years, the redevelopment zones that are currently designated by the master plan will, if not that they're not developed yet, they will be
Okay.
in the process of getting developed. Because that's another black eye on Roosevelt Park is, we have all these empty lots and no one's doing anything about them. Now, granted, the beauty of the United States of America is we have very strong private property laws.
Right.
To where, this isn't Soviet Russia where we can go in and just take anything we want. There's rules that the government has to abide by. But there are ways to, push them in the right direction. If they're not going to do anything on their properties, then sell to someone who will, and who wants to make a commitment to Roosevelt Park, and who wants to build in Roosevelt Park.
And we're talking about eminent domain.
Yes.
All right. Right. And
Eminent domain, just tougher. The code enforcement office enforcing
the code.
Right. And for dilapidated properties,
Okay.
and that's currently.
And that was one of the things
happening
you while you were on council, those are things that happened. The vacant property lots, bank-owned lots, because that was the biggest complaint, right? So a bank owns a property, the grass starts growing, it becomes dilapidated, and while at council,
Yeah,
the governing body addressed that.
Yeah, and I brought that up last year,
Okay.
the Abandoned Properties Act. Excuse me, sorry. And so far, it's been about a year, maybe 15 months, and we've gone from 58 abandoned homes to now it's 28.
Okay.
So a 51% decrease. And that's fantastic because that's 30 more families or people flipping the house. That's 30 more houses that are bought and something's actually going into those places. The neighbors are all happy because now their property values are going up because there's no longer
Someone's taking
abandoned
care of
property
them,
there.
right? So
Yeah.
it's not becoming like you said, an eyesore.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And now to those other 20s, the other 20 houses, we have a going list. So whenever Now the difference, just because there's a difference between an abandoned home and a house in foreclosure.
Correct.
We don't have the homes in foreclosure.
Right.
We only have we only register them on the abandoned properties list when the family who lived in the house gets that knock from the sheriffs and they have to get the boot. That's when we put the houses on.
Right.
And there's an initial registration fee for
Right.
the banks. There's recurring fees, and we don't mind doing that because they are banks, and banks don't care about people. I mean, let's be honest, they don't care about people. They may say they do, but they don't. Everything's a money-making business. So we don't mind charging the fees to banks.
Right. And it's kind of an incentive, right? Because if
Incentive to sell your home, or or at least flip it.
Right.
Sell it to someone who wants to make it nice.
Okay. And so this is your first full term as councilman?
Yes.
Because you came in on a vacancy, right? No, this
is my second year.
Second.
Yeah.
Right. So when you ran for council, what goals did you set for yourself? And what have you achieved, and which one do you think you'll still need to work on?
Mm-hmm. So goals that I've achieved. Oh, actually, let me bring it up real quick, because I have one of my political pieces when I ran for council.
Mm-hmm.
I still have it.
Okay.
So
it's go back and look to see what you told people you were going to do.
Well, that, and just to go right off like what I said.
Right.
So I have it right here. My plan of action: expand on military awareness.
Okay.
So we did the USO 5K this year. We're going to be doing it. It's going to be an annual thing.
And that's a very personal.
That's very personal.
You've always talked about the fact that we live in a society that, heralds its heroes, but when they fall, and the reality of being in horrific situations,
the reality of coming back,
drug addiction, depression, PTSD, all these things are things that people kind of they want to ignore when we hail our heroes. And you've made it say, if we're going to respect our heroes, we have to help them when they're down. And you've always, from what I've known you, you've always made it an absolute point to say there's a reality of people who are hurting, who are my fellow brothers and sisters.
Yeah, and they're...
And that's what the USO was for. It was for the USO 5K, which helps, like you had said, when you knew the USO, because when you were coming home,
mm-hmm.
they were, right?
At the USO, so everywhere that I went when I was overseas, when I went to Afghanistan, on the major bases in Afghanistan, they had a USO area. And when in Kyrgyzstan and Manas at the Air Force Base where we initially flew in, USO has a presence there. When I was in Okinawa, huge USO presence all over the place there. Not necessarily the Philippines, because now there's not a permanent military state base on the Philippines, so not necessarily.
It's more in an advisory capacity, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So when we went to the Philippines, we did the training exercises Balakatan.
Okay.
And we train Filipino Marines on just basic live fire stuff. Some train with them with amphibious assault vehicles, with
so they can
mounted operations too. So they can
take responsibility for their own protection.
So they have a big insurgency in Mindanao, their southernmost island, an Islamic insurgency, and that's what we were basically training them. You come here, train with us for a month, and then you go to Mindanao. And
so you said raise military awareness. That was one thing that you wanted to do, and you've done.
And so far, I think we've done that.
Right.
We raised over $16,000 for the USO at that 5K.
Okay.
Let's see. Effective communication with residents. I think I've communicated with residents. So besides your social media, your Facebook, Instagram, website, email with constituents, phone calls with constituents, I distribute newsletters to the residents of Third Ward, and they're nothing crazy. They're besides the last two that I've put out because I'm running for mayor, so they're going to get a little political on what the plans I want to do. It's been non-partisan. It's been nonpartisan, just facts about what's going on in town, what we're doing on council, programs like like if the 5-year tax abatement program,
Okay.
if the sidewalk program's coming around. So
And you said
make sure
that you've got,
implications.
that's the majority of responses you've gotten from residents, based on that newsletter, right?
Yeah, and they enjoy them because a lot of people are not on the internet.
And the physical newsletters that you
They're
just
physical
deliver,
newsletters.
right? Okay.
Yeah, and I electronically
Send
send
copies,
them
right.
to people who outside of the ward who are interested, because I am the only person on council, and including the mayor, who does newsletters.
Okay.
And I write them myself. I print out, it comes out of my own pocket. I pay for them out of my own pocket.
Okay.
And they're good, and people like them. It's straight information.
Okay.
Reaching out and building coalitions, an advisory committee made up of residents and businesses. We can exchange ideas and information about important issues. So that's kind of a little lacking.
Okay.
This advisory committee, because we kind of, when I got on council, priorities changed.
Right.
And that's why in most of my literature that I do now and when I was on council, the best plan is the plan that is what it is. It's a plan. Once the bullets start flying, or once the slightest sign of adversity, your plan changes.
Right. As Mike Tyson said, everyone has a plan to get punched in the face.
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to go in there and I'm going to fit it.
Yeah.
And you get hit in the face and you realize that doesn't feel the way it should.
Yeah. And I mean, everyone thought that Operation Market Garden would end the World War II by Christmas. It didn't, because you have to remember, when there's a plan, you're planning for something. You're planning, like in war, you're planning against someone. You can't predict. You can try to predict their moves, but you can't.
Right.
It's all.
That's why it's a plan. It's not.
That's why it's a
it's not the
plan.
rule. It's
Yeah.
and so you have a lot of you have a lot of knowledge of like history. So going back kind of to who you were, you're in college. You graduated, right?
Yeah, I graduated in May.
Okay. And so what was your major in college?
I majored in history and then minored in political science.
So you know the military knowledge. So what do you do like for work? So what do you want to do with that degree? What do you do now?
So right now, I work at Red Joe's Pizzeria in
Okay.
Union.
All right.
I've started as a delivery driver,
Uh-huh.
and now it's expanded to assistant management,
Okay.
to where I still deliver, but I'm also waiting tables and working behind the counter, answering the phones.
Okay.
The only thing I don't do is cook,
Okay.
pretty much. I mean, the owner sees me responsible enough to open up and close the restaurant at night or in the morning. And yeah, I just graduated in college.
Okay.
I actually just applied to a new job. Hopefully, I'm waiting on a few things, but hopefully that I get hired at the place that I want to. That'd be nice. And
So what do you want to do with that degree? Like, do you want to be a teacher?
oh, sorry.
or-
So I took a year off from school
Okay.
to run for mayor and to get my ducks in a row. Either A, go to law school,
All right.
maybe, we'll see. I don't know. Honestly, I'm still undecided.
I've been the
and
plan, right?
Yeah.
It adjusts. You had a plan.
That's the thing.
This came up, now you
yeah.
have to adjust.
So that's the thing. When people ask, that's why a plan has to be flexible.
Right.
You can't be.
You don't stick to a plan no matter what because you might be in,
Yeah. You
drive
can't.
down this road. This road's not a minefield. It's like the plan says drive down this road. No, you can't. Do
I'm not going that way.
You're right. Exactly. You need to change the plan. All right. So the plan is not a hard, fast rule. It's
No, it's not set in. It's not like a manifesto.
It's not a direction book.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just. It's more of suggestions. It's more of
Something
well,
to
not
go
really
back to, right?
suggestions. Yeah.
Like it's like, hey, just to check it, are we still where we're supposed to be?
Yeah. Are we still on that overall goal of where we want to end up?
Like you said, that's what's changed with you in council. You had that plan of the
advisory committee. And unfortunately,
Priorities changed.
yeah, priorities changed. Stuff happened on council that required our attention.
Okay.
And
Do you still want to do something like that, though?
I mean, that'd be fantastic to have an advisory committee like this. And if we were to go with this, I would talk to our economic development director about it, because I would think she's the perfect person to do that. And one of the things that she wants to do initially, one of her goals was to meet with residents, to meet with all the businesses in town, and come up with, a profile for Roosevelt Park. Like how a Fortune 500 company comes up with a profile for
Its brand.
their brand.
Right.
You have to come up with a profile for Roosevelt Park's brand. So part of her branding is going to businesses, going to residents, and pretty much just asking them questionnaires.
Okay. All right.
So that's about the coalitions. So focus our attention on business development. It's been, I think, focus on business development, especially with the economic development director.
Okay.
That's definitely a huge step in the right direction. We are moving on the solvent property.
But you've also here's another point of the argument. So you've done ordinances on limiting the number of nail salons, right? Because
Yes.
it was a consensus of it's too much, and the grease traps, and also some other ordinances that deal with business. And what would you say to someone who says, "Hey, man, you're infringing upon, capitalism"? It's like if nail salons come in, why would you like? They would say perhaps what you're doing is counterproductive to business development. What do you?
Well,
what do
we're
you
not-
respond to someone who says that?
Well, it's not necessarily prohibiting
Okay.
those types of establishments. You just have to go one more step further.
Okay. So if you really want it, you're gonna have to go before the land.
because there is a glut of personal service businesses in Roosevelt Park.
Again, that's the brand, right? That's become the Rosa Park brand.
People, and do we want that to be our brand?
Okay. So you would say, how would you explain it to someone who says, "Hey, man, you're anti-business, man. I want to have a nail salon and people come, and someone else wants a nail salon, they come. So what? That's America, right?"
Yeah.
So what do you say to that?
So I say that is sometimes, excuse me. So the short answer is, if that's the case, then Joe DiOrio was the best mayor ever, because in 16 years that there was nothing like that. When Mayor Cardy for 4 years, there was no ordinance like that. Same thing with Mayor Hoganson until this year. There was no ordinance limiting those kinds of services. I would say, to answer that question about what if you're infringing on capitalism, yeah, maybe.
Okay.
But
You feel the good
Not
of the residents.
the
outweighs that.
good of diversifying our business community
Okay.
outweighs.
And that's what you're saying.
And that's what we're
You
trying
want
to do.
diversify.
We're trying to diversify. We're not against, and I say "were" because it came up from Councilwoman Negron. We're not against,
Nail salon.
nail salons, hair salons, beauty salons, barbershops. I mean, my best friend owns
You gotta get your haircut. You gotta get your haircut.
MVP Barbershop in Roosevelt Park, and it's just that there's a glut. There's too much of it.
And that's making it stagnant, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Because it is for landlords, it's easier to just nail salon or a hair salon or whatever. It's very minimal.
You don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
Sink's there, your vent's there, you're good to go. I'm good.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you're kind of more addressing the property, not the business. Like maybe
Yeah,
you're telling
the property.
Are you telling property owners, hey, see what else you can do, right? Because at the end of the day, they're the ones who allow, right?
The landlords, they're the ones who allow it because it's their property.
Right. And if it's allowed, then yeah, sure, I don't care.
Yeah. And with the that ordinance prohibiting, limiting the hair salons and nail salons within 500 feet of each other. First of all, it grandfathers everyone, all of those personal service businesses are already grandfathered in, and then secondly, a lot of people were in favor of doing that because people understand, they want a more diverse business community.
Okay. All right. So we touched about that. So today, what else do you see as a major?
I still have two more.
Oh, go ahead. Oh, that's right. You're looking at your brochure.
I still have two
Which
more.
helps. Go ahead.
Stop pay to play and enforce tougher political donation laws.
Oh, you stopped the pay to play. It didn't go through, but
Well, yeah, I wasn't on council then, but the argument was when I was running for council, because we'll just say it.
yes.
It was brought up by Democrats in 2016, 2015 to increase the amount of money that developers and private firms can give to political candidates. And that's not, in my opinion, I think our pay-to-play laws are some of the toughest in New Jersey right now, and for good reason.
And it's more strict than the state.
It's more strict than the state one.
Right.
Like, so
I mean, you had a councilman who said in public, it's good for the parties. Like,
Yeah.
as a vote to do this.
it's good, yeah, it's
And
good
had to be brought to his attention. You don't work for the party.
you work for the town.
People.
You work for the borough.
Because it's good for them too, because it'll help the candidates.
And you know what, it baffles my mind. And that was, one of the fears was if, in 2017, that's why it was in here, that people would try, I'll just say it bluntly, that the Democrats would try and get rid of the pay-to-play laws or make them more lenient.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's unacceptable to me.
Okay.
So,
And it hasn't come back.
It has not come back. So,
Right.
and we're not changing it. So we're
Okay.
good with it.
And your last one?
Restore the community watch program.
Oh yeah, that.
So that kind of indirectly came about. Now,
So why do you think that? And it did.
Yeah.
But it hasn't been active, right?
yeah,
And why do you think like that is? Why do you think, hey, this is something that I think is important. It involves the community. You have a chance, and it never. I mean, it's like the fifth time it's been tried.
Yeah.
And it's always. I mean, the police department have put their hands in it, and
yeah.
it's always a sincere attempt, but it just never gets off the ground. What do you think? Why do you think that is?
I think it's the community watch program. It's a pre-internet, smartphone, social media kind of world, and community watch is really an 80s, 90s kind of topic. And
That's a good point.
Now,
Yeah, you're right.
And nowadays,
You're on Facebook. You're like, hey, everybody, be on the lookout. Bang, and
Yeah.
within a second, everyone knows. Right?
yeah. And what's different, and I think the community watch
I never even
program
thought of that. That's a good point.
it's societal, I think, because now you have less people are outside all the time, like at night and stuff. You don't have that kind of, and it's not just with community watch, you see it across the board. You see it volunteers for sports teams, volunteers for like PTA, like things like that. You don't have those. I don't know what this reason is for, but you don't have those parents. Maybe they don't have the time because, like in the 80s and 90s, only one person worked in the house. So
Right.
either the father or the mother was able to stay home and watch the kids and all that. And now it's changed because now mom and dad has to
Right.
work. And that's definitely societal. So I think that
Okay.
community watch.
But we have an auxiliary now, right?
Yeah, we have
That's
an
something
auxiliary
new.
force. Yeah.
And those are volunteers again, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And
They do go through training though.
right. It's not right. It's not like a.
It's not like a
It's not like a security guard where it's
Like,
like,
pick
hey,
this
put a
guy
uniform,
walking
put a
downstairs.
uniform on and
Yeah.
just walk. I mean, they get the same training,
Yeah.
they get stuff like that, and they have been at events.
yes.
So I guess even though the community watch hasn't, I mean, that's something new that came within the past couple of years, right?
Yeah. So, and the auxiliary police, they're good. So we have, I believe it's six
Okay.
or seven, because I know that one of our auxiliaries got a job in Linden
He's a police
as a police officer, and that's what it's good. That's the idea when it was pitched, that you have this pipeline of people who are already auxiliaries who already have a good idea of what it is to be a police officer, and who 9 times out of 10, the only thing they need to do then is go to the academy and
Right.
become police officers that way.
Okay.
So I think the auxiliaries are definitely.
So out of your 5 points, how many would you say you reached,
I'd say.
or are working on actively?
I'd say 5 out of 6. I'd say the only one that's the advisory committee.
Okay, that's
So
the only one.
5 out of those 6.
Okay.
And then all the other stuff all the stuff that we've done, that we've done this year and then the year prior. I mean, I could. So actually, that's a question. One of the questions, so I'll skip that for now.
All right.
We have the elected officials manual,
Okay.
to where if you're a newly appointed official, or even if like you're me, or if
Oh, that's
Saul
a good
Kirsten wants to see,
What goes?
what goes on, like what's the kind of things that a councilman needs to know, or a councilwoman needs to know, or the mayor needs to know. They have that kind of official manual, and they get it once they become newly elected, or if they want to become re-elected. And the New Jersey League of Municipalities, they
Okay.
also have their conferences for newly elected officials.
Okay.
First one is always in January, and then they have a budget one too, like an intro to budgets for newly elected officials. We've hired the Wright Borough officials, so we just hired.
And do you think that's important to hire? Because right, you didn't. I mean, other than the economic one, and maybe like 1 or 2, you really haven't hired. It's just like old, people have retired or
Yeah.
resigned or left.
Yeah,
And so you're saying you made a concerted effort to get the right
people
person.
in.
And
to-
like, was the right person someone who would enact what you wanted, or would use their knowledge best? Like, what would you tailor as someone as the best person?
The best person, in my opinion, is someone who does their job, no questions asked. They can stay above the political fray,
Okay.
and they use the knowledge that they have for the job that
Okay.
they have. Like, for example, our borough clerk. He's been fantastic, in my opinion, in the last 2 years. I mean, not only is he very knowledgeable, but he's committed. Like, for example, there's nights where I've gone off of work at 11 o'clock at night, and he's still in the office working
Right.
on Roosevelt Park. That's dedication. And he also has that kind of like mindset too, because he was a councilman
Right.
in Roosevelt Park. So he knows that other side, some of the ways that council people and the mayor click. So he has that kind of an insight, which is definitely a plus for him. And then we just hired the construction officer. So now he's in there 5 days a week, as opposed to when we had our old construction officer. He was only in a couple hours a week, and people weren't getting inspections done in a timely manner and all that stuff. And he's really professionalized that department. And then economic development director. That's a newly created position,
Right.
specifically for business development.
So what do you say to someone who says-
Taking the politics out of business development.
And what do you say to people who say, economic developer, we're a 1 square mile town. Why are we going to spend $100,000? Why are you going to raise my taxes?
Mm-hmm.
I could do that job, or anyone can do that job. Why are we doing that?
Well, it was budgeted for this year. I mean, that position was put in to the budget, and it was still
Like
a
you said,
$48 increase.
At the budget workshops, that was one of the things
Yeah.
at the tail end where I was at that was talked
We
about.
talked
It's
about.
how much are we going to put out? How much is it going to be?
We've talked about this position
I mean, it's been
for
a lot.
9 months.
Yeah.
Since the beginning of the year, we've been talking about it.
Because when the budget came, that was one of the things. How much are we budgeting it for?
Yeah.
Right? Remember, because the mayor was like, well, 100,000 is too much, and then there was negotiations kind
Yeah.
of what was expected and what the range would
And
be.
we did a survey
Right.
of surrounding towns and what they paid their people, and you had people as high as 150,000. Of course, go figure in Elizabeth or in Union, and then you had some people as low as 75,000. But when we hired Beth, it was a combination of what our salary range was, and what she was making in Somerville.
Right.
So she's not going to leave Somerville for a pay cut.
Right. Right.
She's either going to A, get hired at the same rate, or maybe a little more.
Right.
So we hired her at $84,000.
Right, which is $5,000 more than she was getting
Yeah.
in Somerville, right? Okay, and you feel that that's a justified. So, are you saying that that's a justified cost?
Yes.
Okay.
In my opinion, it absolutely is.
Okay. All right.
Especially if she can move our business community, our economic development in the direction that we want.
Again,
it'd
that's
definitely be worth
she's
it.
done that in other towns. So you're saying
She's
picking
done that
someone
in
like
some-
that,
yeah.
and that you can go back to those towns and go, oh yeah, she has done this.
She's done this in Somerville,
Okay.
and she's done it in Maplewood. And Somerville was like Roselle Park 10 years ago. How we are now. No direction, business-wise. What's the word for? It's tired. It's like not lazy, but it's just there's no motivation
Right.
to do anything.
Okay.
And she's very data driven. She's very energized to where she can, and she's very smart. And every conversation I have with her, she blows my mind sometimes. But she is very good, and I think that she's going to do an excellent job.
Okay. All right.
And we got a long list.
Oh, good.
Well, not really long, but so on council, we fought favoritism, nepotism by trying to take politics out of the hiring processes.
Okay.
So one of the things we did was now applicants who list sitting council members are disqualified from being hired. Oh no, I'm still picking. Sorry. So what that was all about was we want people hired based on their job experience and merit, not their political connections.
Okay.
And that came up with the hiring of Paul DeVito last year.
Who's that? I don't.
He is a equipment operator for the DPW.
Okay.
And another thing that we're doing too, because we sat down and had a committee meeting last Tuesday. We had it Wednesday. We had a DPW Municipal Services committee meeting, and we discussed.
Oh, that's the one where is he? Because I didn't.
Councilman Petrosky and Councilman Conley.
These two references
were them, yeah.
and you did go on the record saying, "I feel he's the right person."
Yeah.
But there's an issue here that's beyond this person.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. It was that two of his three references were the people who were going to hire him.
Yeah.
Right.
And they were on the interview committee.
Okay. Yes. Thank you.
Because I was on the interview committee.
I remember. Now I remember. Okay, because I'm like, the name didn't click, but I
Yeah.
remember you had said, I feel this guy's the right person. And you even said, but I have something I want to address. So that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
The nepotism kind of, not favoritism, but yeah, they know him. They
Yeah.
personally know this man.
Yeah.
And suppose,
they're friends with him.
suppose it was me, and like I'm their friend, and I'm a horrible, I have no experience. If
Yeah.
you say no, they still overrun you by 2 right? And that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, and that was last year. It was 42.
Okay, so that's what you're addressing,
Yeah.
taking the nepotism out of that,
Taking
or the perception of that, or the
Yeah.
possibility that might
possibility that could happen.
happen. Right. Okay. Okay. All right.
And where was I going? I was going with that too. Actually, that's actually down
Okay.
more. So I mentioned before we have some of the toughest pay-to-play laws in New Jersey. I do distribute the newsletters. We are working on SMART, or the right development.
Okay.
I mean, one of the reasons why it took 18 months to get a redevelopment plan for Sullivan was,
And it's still not done. I mean,
It's still not done.
The actual agreement
It's still not done.
Is not done yet.
it got to what the agreement is now, and
Right.
that's 18 months of tirelessly going through the plan
And addressing
over and over
the
again,
whole-
addressing the issues.
And
that
plus with the
are-
military part, one
and
of the things is the
veterans'
affordable
preference
housing.
too. Yeah,
Which is something that I think if you hadn't been on there,
that would have
and
been
maybe
discussed.
because I think, and again, Mayor Hokinson is Marine Corps veteran as well,
Mm-hmm.
and but I'm just saying the fact that he wouldn't have had a vote, right? So, but the fact that you are a military person
Yeah,
and that's in your mind. It's like these people deserve.
it's always in the background.
Okay.
And the thing with affordable housing, COA, there's definitely a misconception about COA. Like, COA and affordable housing units are not Section 8 units, because Section 8 is government subsidized.
Right.
Section affordable COA is just, you have to provide apartments for
At a reduced rate.
reduced rate. And the requirements for
And those apartments are smaller than, so you don't get the same exact apartment, a 2-bedroom apartment, that's a market rate is what we call it. It's a little smaller, it's it's livable, but you're paying, if it's $1,500, maybe you're paying $1,200.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's still $1,200,
Yeah, it's
right?
like, yeah.
It's not like $200.
Yeah, and the requirements for the low and the medium, because there's low and medium, it's a lot of people in New Jersey would probably qualify. I mean, for example, now
There was a
this
one
is
case
a
where
this
a
is
cop,
yeah.
officer just starting off would actually fall into an affordable housing category because their starting wage compared to like the populace.
I fall into the category.
Right. Okay.
So I think it was for low income. If you're single, you have to make an income less than, I believe. Now, this is just a guesstimation. I don't remember the exact number, but it was around like 50,000. And then if you're a couple, it's like, I think it's like 20,000 more, so like 70, 80,000. And then for the medium, it's 60,000 for a single person, and then for two family, it's maybe 90, 100,000. So it's not these crazy like qualifications. It's actually relatively low, or however you want to mention it. But there is definitely there is a misconception about COA, in my opinion. And if we don't act on COA now, we're going to be paying for it.
Right, that's a problem. That's a long term. See, that's one of the long term goal. Because like, if you don't do it now, it's gonna come.
Yeah, and 10 years ago at Avalon Bay, we had a lawsuit like that, because of COA. So, and now granted, 10 years ago, I was still in high school when this happened. So,
Right.
But the bottom line is it happened, and we have to abide by the plan.
Right.
And all the stuff in that plan, none of it has been developed. We still don't have senior housing.
Right.
We don't have, the Romarovsky site is still not up. So, I mean, granted, they're still in the plan to go there, but we can still figure it out and get a couple of COA units at these other redevelopment zones, because if the state comes and finds out you didn't get any COA at A, B, C, and D developments, we're going to slap you with a huge fine or something. And it's a travesty that the first Meridia that's going up at Demise doesn't have any COA units.
Right, that has zero.
That's
it has
none.
pilot. It has pilot though.
It has pilot, but it has no COA.
No COA.
And this was before I got on, so
Okay.
unfortunately I wasn't able to. I wasn't part of that process.
Okay.
But
All right.
Still going.
Keep going.
So this year we had the lowest tax increase in 16 years at $48.07 for our municipal side.
I mean, the year before you had one of the highest.
Well, the year
$121.44.
Well, depending on who you ask. If you ask Ken Blum, it was $92.
Well, the first time, but then when he adjusted it to everything else, it was like, yeah, it's 121.
Well, unfortunately for that, we go back to circumstances kind of dictating the plan. So one of the things that popped up was the communications, the $700,000 communications thing for the police department and fire department. So they were able to, number one, talk to each other, and number two, talk to outside agencies, whether it's the county, the state, or a different town. So you always want to do the best stuff, but sometimes stuff happens, and unfortunately stuff happens. And now with the $48.07 increase this year, we're looking towards making that $48.07 either zero or on the minus side, to where you're, granted, even if it's minus $1 or whatever, it's still an accomplishment in a state where the state government keeps destroying us with taxes. Like, make sure, well, this isn't going to go out until I don't know when. not until tomorrow or anything, but
Yeah, the
gas taxes going up.
Right.
All those other taxes that our great state government decided to enact are killing families in New Jersey. And granted, this isn't just the taxes in Roosevelt Park. It's not just Roosevelt Park. It's a state problem, and obviously our legislators, our governor in the state house, don't learn from history, because you can't tax your way out of a problem. You cannot provide the services that they want to provide, but you're going to tax everyone. You have to make cuts somewhere. You have to lessen the burden on the families of New Jersey. And this isn't in Roosevelt Park too, because Roosevelt Park is a part of New Jersey, and it's unfortunate. And we are a very high taxed state. That's why so many people are going south. I mean, my Uncle Bill lives in Wilmington, North Carolina. Grew up in Roosevelt Park. Why did he leave? Taxes, and he hates snow. But taxes are a huge issue, and it's not just Roosevelt, it's everywhere.
Right.
And until our state legislators and our governor decide to cut back on some programs, then we're going to be stuck in the mud.
Okay.
We can only do so much as a municipality. We only control 32%, 33% of the overall what we get in revenues.
Right.
56% goes to the school board, and then another 10% goes to the county, and then you have like the less than 1% for open spaces and the library. But yeah, it's unfortunate.
Okay.
We also
Yep.
so establishing the green team for sustainable Jersey, the 5K walk run. We passed the resolution last year. If a utility company comes in within 5 years after a street was repaved, they have to repave it from curb to curb, from block to block, the whole block, because it's ridiculous. Because I brought it up, and I got the idea from Union.
Okay.
Because they just redid Morris Avenue in Union. Granted, it's a state highway, but not even 3 months after they did the paving, the water company was in there changing pipes. And thinking, like, you don't know, like, you have to get your schedules together.
Right.
And that's one of the things we started doing this year. Was we've reached out to all the utility companies, like, hey, we're doing these 2 streets this year. Get your work done before we do it, because you're going to be paying for it,
Right.
not us. We're already paying a lot of money to repave these streets.
To repave them, right.
So we have the new RFP process where we interview all the professionals. I know it's a question later down the line. I donate my salary to the joint sewer
Right.
now, and then next year, as long as all goes well, and if I get elected mayor or not, I'm still going to be here next year. So I would like to be on joint sewer next year as well, just to make sure that salary goes to where it's in our resolution supposed to, and that's back to it. It gets credited towards our sewer bill.
Right. And plus the fact that like you had said, like when you came in your first year in council, your party's changed but now you've got a year behind you. Same thing with the joint meeting. If you hire a new person, how long is it going to take for that person to catch up? And then a new person. Most other towns keep their commissioner because they want that sustainable.
They want that
knowledge,
continuation.
Right.
And I think when I got on, it was a lot. There was a lot of turnover this year.
There was.
There was a lot of turnover. I was surprised. And then the lady from Newark,
right?
She's not on there anymore. I guess she might have retired or something. But now there's a new guy from Newark. He'll probably be there for another 20 years. But he was coming to the meetings in a state-funded car.
Nice.
From like Newark, and I'm thinking, should move to Newark. I'm just kidding. But it's things like that, like unnecessary benefits. Like why can't you drive your own car?
Yeah.
I drive my own car there. I know
a job that you're going to get paid for, by the way. It's not right.
Yeah.
It's not like a freebie.
It's like I don't, because I donated it all.
Right.
I would have made more money on joint sewer than I do on council.
Correct. Yeah. Right.
Council's pay is $6,000 after taxes. It's $6,000. I get $250 every 2 weeks, and joint sewer, it's like $6,500 for the whole year, and
it's one meeting.
It's one meeting a month.
A month.
That doesn't count August.
Right.
We were on a meeting. Granted, we had one for July, but usually you don't have meetings in July.
No, it's 10. You have 10 meetings for $600 a meeting.
It's the highest paying job I've the highest paying hourly job I'll ever have in my life.
Think about that, right?
It's crazy. It's crazy. Now the Board of Education meetings are aired on TV 34.
Okay.
We have our meetings are online. We have them on YouTube. We have the email notification system for our agendas for mayor and council.
Right.
So if anyone wants to see what we're actually voting on and doing that meeting, they can get it. We're still in the process of getting to pay property taxes online.
Through credit cards, right?
Credit cards and stuff. We're tracking grants better to where we have a living, breathing document that lists all of the grants that are possible that we can apply for and what the status is on them, if we're actively doing it right now, if it's completed, or did the deadline pass, those are the deadlines, so we know all this stuff so we can better get more money. As we touched on Transit Village, Complete Streets is adopted. We now have paper shredding events for, I don't know if this is going out before this, but don't forget on Saturday, October 20th is the paper shredding. Is it the 20th? Is it 20th or the 13th?
Okay.
Actually, I could look on my recycle coach. We started the superhero program.
Right.
For if I want to make it yearly because we had Mateo as the inaugural superhero, but someone in the community who has overcome a great like issue, like Mateo had pediatric cancer. It's a great thing that he had to overcome, and it doesn't have to be someone with cancer. It could be so and so saved the dog from getting hit by a car. I mean that's a superhero, and you don't get. I wanted to do it in part because of Mateo, but in part that in our society now, you don't get those kind of people all the time that will risk everything to save a dog, or something like that, or do something extraordinary that normally they wouldn't do, or anyone would do. We now have an animal control officer, and he's pretty good. He's everywhere, saving everyone. Abandoned Properties Act. We appoint individuals based on their merit and experience, not political affiliation. To rattle off a few: Michelle Lamonto for Clean Communities, Jenny Lichtenwalder for the Board of Library Trustees, and your wife, who I'm assuming has to resign now. Based on their experience.
I just want to make sure you're done. Are you still working?
I'm still working, yes.
Okay, all right.
Thank you. The 5-year tax abatement program. Professionalize the business development by hiring an economic development director, and then increasing the amount of inspectors we have, so you don't have to wait for your inspections, whether it's for construction and all that stuff. And that's ahead of my whole little list there.
So we talked about what you find important in Roselle Park, and how you can keep your constituents informed. So now we'll move on to development. But to touch upon, I guess you had talked about the construction. That was an issue with the vehicles that were for the construction officers. The fire department came in and.
Oh no, I'm talking about. We hired per diem inspectors, the pool of inspectors. So if if we got too many people, or if too many people needed work done, and with like the Meridia, because I know that
That takes a lot.
Frank's there all the time, like doing inspection stuff. It takes up a lot of time, so it's good to have that pool that we can go to in that event. Yes, it's October 20th.
Okay.
See, recycle coach. You know what? When you move to Elizabeth, that'll be for Elizabeth too.
We'll touch about the vehicles later because I'll add that to the list. But so development.
Mm-hmm.
That's important now. We've touched upon that a lot. They're the two Meridia projects that we talked about.
Yeah.
There's Romarovsky. Mimi's is being redeveloped. Hunter's is in the process of wanting to be redeveloped.
Mm-hmm.
Hawthorne Basin got approved for stuff.
Yeah.
The Ryan property is and these are just a few. So, like we said, for the past decades, nothing, and now all of a sudden everything is moving along.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are your feelings about like all the? So like we said, for years, decades, just and now things are moving along.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts about that?
So, I mean, it's exciting.
Okay.
Because nothing has happened. No kind of grand scale development like this has happened in a generation or two. So it's definitely exciting, but it's about the right development coming in and not putting not an overburden on our school system with school-aged kids. And it's about not getting intimidated or bullied by developers. What do they want? No, it's what we want. It's our town. And it's what the residents, it's what the residents through their council members, because we are the elected, we are the voice of the people, what we want to see at these kind of places.
Okay.
Like Sullivan, like Hunter, like Ryan. Oh, and shooting those out because they haven't been developed yet.
Right.
And that it is commercial. It's good. It has to have. We have to have commercial components to it because that commercial component attracts people from other towns. Granted, in the building climate of 2018 and however long it lasts, a lot of the development in Jersey has been mixed use with commercial on the bottom and then rentals, and if you have it, maybe professional offices up top.
Okay.
So as long as it's not just straight apartments, then, I mean, perfect example, look at up and down Westwood Ave. That was the last great build, was all these apartments that you now see on Westwood Ave and that kind of stuff. And granted, I'm not going against apartments per se. I mean, I don't live in an apartment, but I am a renter just like them. We are all residents
Right.
of the same town. But as long as it's the right development and not getting bullied by developers.
So when you say right development, so what is that? And you said it's mixed use, but like, so for now, the First Meridia is 6 stories, right? So that's a 6-story building. Hawthorne, I think 14 units. Mimi's is going to be maybe another, I think.
There's 10 or something.
10,
in Mimi's.
right. So those are small, right?
Yeah.
And they're within kind of a neighborhood style, a residential neighborhood, right?
Yeah.
But the First Meridia it's a 6-story building that comes right up to the sidewalk, right?
Yeah.
What would be the right development? Again, part of the plan. Mr. Mayor, day one, you're the mayor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what is the right development?
So the right development is that it's that mixed use, but not with 900,000 friggin' apartments.
Okay.
So, but not only just that component, it has to be sustainable. It has to be eco-friendly. We have to have open spaces at these developments. It can't
Right.
just be like what's going up at the Domani's property,
Okay.
where it's right up to Westwood Avenue. You need that setback if you want to have, let's say you have a barista open up on the Sullivan property. They need that sidewalk space so they can put out tables on the outside, because that's conducive to a thriving downtown. If you look at towns with downtowns that people are proud of. If you go to spit them out, a Cranford or a Westfield or a Somerville, a lot of their restaurants during the nice years they have outdoor seating,
Right.
and you can't have outdoor seating with 6-foot sidewalks. They need to be higher, and
All right.
maybe a bit like a. It might sound like nuts, but it's true, and as long as there's that component to where it is green, because it's all about sustainability, in my opinion. And I mean, I've been really. Someone mentioned it to me the other day, like, you're probably the most environmental friendly person on council, and you're not even on the environmental committee. It's like, well, I guess I gotta be on the environmental committee now.
So what do you say to someone who's like, how long would you wait for that right development, right? So, because that's been, right,
Yeah.
people have been saying, well, we waited this long because we were waiting for the right development. And someone says, I don't care if you put a strip club in there, as long as it reduces my taxes, as long as that doesn't make it empty, I don't care what you put in there.
Yeah.
How long would you wait for a right development? How would you work to get a right development? And at what point would you say, well, I've tried everything I could.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's put up something.
Well, we're always actively looking for these kinds of developments, and this is where Beth is really going to help Roosevelt Park because. Oh, hey, Lionel.
Yeah, it's fine.
So, her 3 main jobs are going to be the voice for the existing businesses in Roosevelt Park, to brand and market Roosevelt Park to outside people, developers, businesses, get them into Roosevelt Park and keep them and have them, stay in Roosevelt Park.
Okay.
Like she did in Somerville. Because when pre-economic development director, how we've been doing it for 108 years or however long.
Right.
As long as Roosevelt Park has been a borough. Who do you talk to if you want to open up a business? You either people call the construction department, people call the mayor maybe, or the clerk. But now that you have this person who can actually do this kind of stuff full time, I think it's good, and it's definitely good for the future of our borough, and will definitely help us out with development. Because, I mean, perfect example. I was in her office last week, and we were talking about Roosevelt Park and what the vision is for Roosevelt Park, and we were going over, just talking about Sullivan, just what would be nice to see there, and being that Meridia is the conditional redeveloper,
right,
as long as they come to an agreement, she sent me a plan for a Meridia development in South Orange.
Okay.
And it took a while, but it's what the town wanted.
All right.
And I can send you the link if you're interested in looking at it, but it looks beautiful.
So you're saying that
facade.
So although you're saying that for lack of a better, there's still room for negotiations. I guess this is it, right? Because once you agree to this, that's it. You're done. And so you're saying that she helped you and members of council understand that there are places where they've negotiated and they have come to kind of a better conclusion.
Yeah.
Okay.
And especially with these properties, and to answer your question about how long would I wait to get something on some of these properties, it's obviously what each development has its own timeline, but depending on the building, you want that right development. Like you said, you don't want a strip club in Roosevelt Park. Where are, I don't know, in Union County, where are there strip clubs?
Right.
And not very good areas, not very nice.
In urban areas, right.
Well, more by like major highways and stuff.
Okay.
Where there's a lot of crime because you have a lot of, gangs and I don't know if the mob's still powerful in New Jersey anymore. I might get whacked after that. But it's always going to be about the right development and not getting bullied by developers, in my opinion.
And do you think that that's been the case where maybe bullied but influencing, lobbying? That's there's a risk of that either happening already or becoming the SOP. You know, the POS, you know, protocol that's going to be the standard procedure from now on.
I mean, even with this Meridia, it seems like because it's very, very interesting. I don't know if you see it or maybe like anyone watching sees it, but it seems like for this Sullivan property, and I can't speak. I won't speak on the Meridia
The other one,
the other one because I wasn't on council then, so I can't speak for it. But I can speak about this process because I've been part of this process. It seems like it's not only the developers, but it's even our professionals. It seems like they're talking with each other.
Okay.
But it was, and those, I guess those professionals, there's a reason Beneke is there because I guess Nega had a conflict of interest at that site. And
Right.
My opinion on McManaman, there's a reason why they're not our redevelopment attorney anymore.
Okay.
So they're also, I don't know, it's just, it felt like everyone was against the 4 members of council who were trying to get it done right.
Okay. All right.
And you know what? That's fine because once whatever goes up there, once that agreement is signed and all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, you're not knocking that whatever it goes there down.
Right.
That's going to be there
Forever.
forever.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Right.
it's a forever game.
It is. And we've touched upon, I guess, you've talked about attracting businesses, and it looks like you're putting a lot of faith in your economic developer, and that. But you, as a councilman, and in Third Ward, right?
Yeah.
That's
downtown.
that's the most, like, that's your downtown. That's the most concentrated business. What did you do before she came in? Like, what had you done? And understanding that now as mayor, if elected,
Yeah.
you've got everything from Sun Tavern to the boutique on Galloping Hill to Chilean Bakery to the Dollar Tree.
Yeah.
Right. You've got all this kind of thing. How will you, beyond the economic developer, attract, retain, get the right business in here?
Well, part of the reason why we hired an economic development director is to take the politics out of it, to where, because the mayor is, like I said, the mayor is he is the face, he is the voice of the town.
Is it to take? So let me ask you: is it to take more of the politics, or and you can just, or is it to be that checker of, because this mayor he's openly said it, and previous mayors have said, they have discussions with potential developers because they don't call up saying, hey, I want to talk to the First Ward Council. I want to talk to the mayor. Hey, Mr. Mayor, I've got this idea for so and so, and they talk, and the mayor being the mayor, whoever from Joe DiOrio to whomever, they got a full-time job. They're not, they're like, oh, it sounds good to me,
and that's
or it sounds no good to me,
and that's one of the other reasons why we hired her, because.
So is it not the politics, maybe like that objective checker to go, hey, let me tell you something about this kind of business or this kind of development?
Yeah, well, that, and it's both in my opinion.
Okay,
because
that's fine. Yeah.
You, like you said, mayor and council, it's all part time.
Yeah.
It's part-time jobs. Everyone else has full-time jobs. It's still a lot of work. You're working up from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to bed. It's council. It's Roselle Park if I'm not doing anything else. But excuse me. It's about taking the mayor who, unless he has a degree or he has a job in attracting businesses to towns, then, and this is for anyone.
Right,
who's
you're
mayor.
not, right, you're not, you're just saying the position.
I'm not just the position.
Right.
You have no idea what you're doing.
If if it sounds good to you, sure. Like,
Yeah.
like when you go buy something at the store, if the salesman did a good job, it's
The
like,
salesman
I'll
bought-
take it.
The salesman sold me on my car because he's a salesperson.
And you come home and be like,
That's
this
his
is just a piece of junk.
Yeah.
But you never know, right?
Yeah.
But if you had someone who's like mechanic, be like, let me tell you about this model of car. So that's what she's kind of your, or council's experienced professional in that area. Like
Yeah.
if you bring a mechanic to do your, or when you get a house, the appraiser would be like, check that, check that, check that. Why do they have that there? Why is
Yeah.
that there? Why are they selling it this way? So that's what she's kind of there for.
Yeah, and if you want to, like an example for it, what would you rather have? Some political person, like a mayor or a council person, run the finances of Roselle Park? Or would you rather have a financial officer who has certifications
Okay.
and has experience doing that sort of thing? I would think that 99.9% of the people would want that professional working the finances of the borough.
Gotcha. So that's
Just like-
you're equating it that job.
It's professionalizing that.
Gotcha.
It's professionalizing it because
That's a good analogy, right? Because I'd be like,
Yeah.
hey, would you like your brother to do your taxes, or the guy who's going to sign a piece of paper and say, I'm an actual.
or the construction department. Do you want me as a council person inspecting your home to make sure that it's
Oh, I'm sure
structurally sound?
I'm sure there's some people who would love it, and some people who would hate it, right?
And then it crumbles, and then the borough gets sued, and then what happens? Because you have a council person
Gotcha.
inspecting
That's a good
houses.
that's a good analogy. I'd never even, but you're right, right? So what you're saying is this is not a let me get it done at all costs. This is a let's get it done. You said it with the proper, the best outcome.
Yeah.
And getting some. Oh, I never even thought of that. It's actually pretty. Yeah, that's good. And because you're right, because people think, oh, it's just economics, but no, it's
a lot more.
it's development of economics, and they're directing
It's
it.
it's
It's in the title.
development, it's economics, it's businesses. I mean,
Okay.
it's a lot.
All right. And it also removes that kind of, because we're such a small town, the people who own or who work or who manage these businesses. And sometimes someone has to come down and say, look, this is how we're changing things. And, how can I come to you? Be like, and that's a danger, right? Because if you say, oh, I'll do it for you, then this person,
And then it looks like you're doing
Right.
a political favor for something.
and that's what, maybe that's what you're talking about, the
Take out
politics.
yeah.
Go talk to Beth. I'd love to help you, but you know what?
We hired an economic development director.
Go talk to her.
Like I was talking to a resident, and he's a friend of mine. He's like, I have this idea of like a business I would open in Roselle Park. What do you think? Oh, that's great. It's a good idea, but this is why we hired an economic development director, because I don't know. I mean, let's be honest. No one on council has any experience doing what Beth has done in other towns and doing that job.
Hold on one second.
Yeah.
Can I get a cup of coffee too?
Yeah,
Just regular coffee. Thank you.
regular coffee. With some milk.
Cream.
Cream. I don't have cream, just milk.
Milk.
No milk?
No. And sugar. Thank you. So that's what you were talking about, having that kind of removed, which makes sense, right? Because now you don't. Again, we're not a New York City. I mean, you know people from the street. So
Yeah.
sometimes you kind of have to put your foot down, and it's more like, hey, that's that person. I'd love to help you.
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
But she's the one. And then
You
she'll
have
be
to
like,
get-
that's a ridiculous idea. I have no idea what you're thinking.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great idea, right? And then
And she can go. It can say, "Hey, I'm Saul Kirsten. I want to open up, I don't know, a bagel shop in Roselle Park." And she goes on Beth. Okay, well, here's a list of all the properties that are for rent in Roselle Park. You want to open up a bagel shop? Okay. You probably want something. I'll ballpark it. You want 1,000 square feet to 1,500 square feet of space for your business. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces like that. Here's what the landlord is charging in rent. Here's how soon you can move in.
here's what's
Here's
in
some
it. What
pictures.
it's set up for.
What's it set up for?
Right.
Let's go and check it out.
Okay. All right then. Cool. So property taxes. I'm sure that's the one thing, or the main thing that is always on people's minds about the taxes that are being paid. Being on council, and what are your thoughts on how that money has been spent? Understanding the 3356, right? So the portion that you have, but at the end of the day, someone goes, "Hey, I don't want to pay 33%." I don't want to pay. I don't want to pay $1,000. It's like I don't want to pay $3,476 for what I pay for municipality.
Yeah.
I don't want to pay these taxes. And unfortunately, like you said, the mayor's the face of the town. The town is the face of taxes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, good point. Because
Right.
there's
No one looks at the right.
they don't look at the breakdown. They don't see the
But you're the face that sent them the letter.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're the ones who.
the CFO sends it out.
So what are your thoughts on how they've been used since you've been on council, the taxes?
I think that they've been used pretty well.
Okay.
Obviously, there's always room for improvement. There's never a perfect budget. There's never a perfect anything. There's never a perfect everything. We'd be living in a utopian society. So, I wanted to grab the notes of last year's budget, because last year there was a little issue on if it was $121 or $92 for the budget, but we try our best with the money we get to do roads. We have the 2 bulk days. I would love to get that increased, maybe quarterly, but it all depends, because
Now, do you think, and I'm sorry.
I think they become regionalized.
Yeah. That's what I was going to. My next question would be like, do you think the fact that we are such a small town, because one of the reasons we pay what we pay is because we've got one bidder,
Yeah.
right? We have one company that comes in and says, and I'm just saying any service, I'll
Yeah.
do this. So they're like, I'm going to charge this much. It'd be like, we don't pay that much. It'd be like, well, who's the other guy? Oh wait, there's no other
No,
guy.
there's none. You have the
Thank you very much.
corner.
Please give me the check and we'll go ahead and do what we want. Right? So again, you were talking about regionalization. And stuff.
And this is another reason why taxes in New Jersey are so high, because 565 municipalities. You have, for Roselle Park, you have a police department. You have, and we'll go Union County too. We have a Union County Police, Union County Sheriffs, Union County EMS. You have sugar. You have a lot of layers of government.
Right.
I mean, you have the freehold. You have Union County freeholders. You have all their services and departments, and then you also have like council, and you have Roselle Park. You have mayor and council. You have your own clerks and your own CFOs, and then you have your own school districts. There's no regionalized school districts. Well, there are in New Jersey, but you would have to go up to like Hunterdon County or up north or out west
Right.
to get regionalized schools, and that's why taxes are so low in a place like Wilmington, or Wilmington, like in North Carolina. Like my example is my uncle, because he lives down there. His taxes are like $2,000 a year.
Okay.
So
But they have like sheriff, right? They have a county sheriff.
yeah, the county sheriff. It's all county. It's all county. It's all regionalized.
Right.
And then you also have,
Do you think the time has come to seriously look at that
of course,
in Roselle Park?
we've been looking at that
Okay.
on council this year, especially with shared services and DPW,
And that's the thing, because again,
and with the school board.
because we're a small town,
Mm-hmm.
you're friends with people who work in municipal jobs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Puts food on their table. They have be it DPW, be it the police, be it all these other services.
Mm-hmm.
When you say regionalization, you're saying taxpayer want to save you money, and this is a huge family community. For some people, it's like you're taking my child,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're impacting my family. I won't be able to live here. I'll be able to move. I don't have a job, right? So how do you start balancing that? the reality, because we talked
Yeah,
about
because
that.
there's realities.
It's a
Yeah.
reality of that. You sooner or later, someone's job is gone
Yeah.
with regionalization, shared services. People call you both.
Yeah.
How do you address that? Mayor Fahoury, you have a line full of people. The day you say, "I think I want a shared service with another town for this," you know you're going to have a council room full of people saying, "You bum."
Well,
To be kind.
we've already had meetings with different towns about different shared services. Like, for example, shared service, we had meetings with Garwood, with Fanwood, we're actually, right now, we're in the process with Kenilworth. And just to talk about how, even the school board, because a lot of people would be surprised, but there's a lot that the school board and the town can definitely work on.
Yeah, you each have your own custodial staff, your own DP. They have their, their
They have
it's
their
their
own, like,
maintenance.
grounds crews and
It's their
stuff.
maintenance, right? But it's their DPW, right? I
Yeah.
mean, they have their own kind of Okay, so that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, because, and to answer the question about, like, regionalization, meaning, like, I guess, because once that kind of stuff becomes regionalized, it's not like a town thing, it's multiple
No, it isn't.
towns.
Right? Yeah. Right.
So it is a
we'll get to it later, but
yeah.
our first aid. I mean, beyond the
Yeah.
it's a regionalized, right? We now have a regionalized first aid responder.
Yeah.
Right, that has a location in town, has dedicated services, but they respond for the county.
Yeah.
So like that's already a step, right? And you saw how well that went over with people, because legitimately, and I think both of us would agree, and most people would agree, the people on the first aid squad were not, lazy, evil, malintent people, but there was a decision that needed to be made. But it's still, these are people who gave their, they did nothing wrong, and they don't understand why they're not given a second chance. So now expand that upon DPW, shared services, all these other things.
And don't forget, shared services, it's not, you don't necessarily have to fire people for shared services. So, for example,
But some people don't know that. They hear,
Yeah.
people hear shared services and be like, it's like when they call, hey everybody, come into the office, or we're merging with another company.
Yeah.
People are like, we're not
all right,
merging. People are getting fired.
Who's getting cut?
Right. And that's what people hear when they hear shared services. It's the government equivalent of a merger or acquisition.
Yeah. So, perfect example. So, with Garwood, some of our talks with Garwood were about, because they don't have a tree guy.
Okay.
A certified tree guy, how we have with our guy. And we have the truck, we have the other, I can't remember the name of the other piece of equipment we have. And one of the things was talking about him going over to Garwood a couple days a week and, doing their trees. And then for Garwood, coming over with, because they do their own garbage, Garwood.
So that's what you're saying.
And we
like-
contracted out.
Gotcha.
So you're saving money because now.
In this case, no one would be let go.
No.
But we may be able to cut the cost
Money,
of
yeah.
collection.
Cost, yeah.
Gotcha.
And we did also
Alright.
talk about sharing superintendents as well. Because Garwood's smaller than Roosevelt Park.
Right. I mean, right now, we don't, just for the record, I don't think right now we have an official superintendent for the DPW, right?
We have an acting.
Acting, but there's no
No.
official superintendent.
No,
right?
we haven't hired anyone yet.
Okay, so right now there's an actual open position.
We have 2 open positions
Okay.
in DPW.
All right.
Because we did not bring back Mark Pasquale in February.
Right.
So we've been, for 7 months, we've been looking far and
So in
wide.
that case, there would be no one who'd be like, the superintendent, because we don't have one.
Yeah, same
Okay.
thing with labor. So
Gotcha.
we're not going, so part of like our professionalizing the process, we're not going to start interviews for a laborer position until we get a superintendent in position. Because that superintendent is going to be working with this person all the time, every 5 days a week,
Right.
300 and whatever many days a year. So, and we want that person in place so you can get, and then depending on who we hire, you're gonna have to have the assistant superintendent too, because most towns, either a foreman or an assistant superintendent. We went the assistant superintendent route.
Okay.
For whatever reason, that's
Right. That's when you came in.
when I came in. That's how it was. So we're going to change the process for DPW because there's that concept there. There is that image of DPW jobs being like political jobs for people. So what we're going to do, what we agreed upon as a municipal services committee, is to take council out of it,
Okay.
and the DPW superintendent and assistant is going to do all the hiring.
You're still working, right?
Yeah, just like all the other departments. There's no, we hire, the council interviews department heads, but
Right.
like Ken Blum, if he has an opening in his department, mayor and council isn't going into the interview. Like, granted, he'll give his suggestions because we have to vote on it
Right.
and the recommendation. Like, but DPW is the only department in Roseville Park that we don't do that for. So we're going to do that for them too. Is take politics out of it, because when people
So right now, council hires every single person on DPW.
they're in the they're in the interview process for those
I never
for a
said-
labor or a
You're right. I mean, I've known that, but I'd never like given that thought.
yeah
For the police, the chief does the interviewing, and then he offers a recommendation.
yes
And
Same
like you had
thing.
said for the finance or the borough's clerk.
Yeah.
The clerk has like he hired an assistant.
yeah
He did the interviewing. He gave the recommendation, and these are the reasons why.
yeah
Gotcha. So leaving it up to the professionals again.
yeah.
I never. I
Take
I
politics
knew
out of
that,
it.
but I didn't know. See, that's important because you're right. That does lead to that kind of, hey, why is that up to an elected official, not anything else?
Yeah. Well, the department, the superintendent is still in the interviews, but you have
But you have an interview. You were in the interview committee for a
For the
DPW
coun-
position.
for I was in the interview for when we hired the operators,
Right.
equipment operator.
Wow, I see that. Yeah, that's important to kind of put.
Take politics out of
Yeah.
it. It should only council should only be or those
Because
respective
then you're kind of
committees.
micromanaging, kind of, right?
Yeah.
You're kind of saying, well, as opposed to I'm going to pick the person who does the picking. Right?
Yeah.
Like your management, the supervisors are mid-management, and then there's labor.
Yeah.
And you're becoming, for the labor, you're like saying, wow, that's important. I'm surprised that hasn't even been done before.
That's like a general interviewing, like for a staff,
private.
like a staff NCO.
Yeah. Right,
Something
exactly.
crazy.
Wow, but you're right. I'd known, because I'd been at the meetings and they're hiring this person, but you're right. It's never been like, hey, we're gonna be the ones who.
Yeah, DPW is the only department, and we're not doing that anymore.
Okay.
We talked about that at our last meeting, and as long as mayor and council, we get it, the superintendent, or if it's Andrew, or if it's Ken, or Frank, or
You have to trust the
police
people
chief.
you hire, the department heads.
Yeah, and as long as you give a legitimate reason or reasons why you want this person on your staff, then okay, you have to work with them every day, not me.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I mean,
And their work product is reflection upon you as a
As a-
manager and as an employer, right? Because
Yeah.
you're hiring them. That's really. What about the crossing guards though? Who is that?
the police department gives recommendations.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
eye opening. I had never. You're right. I've been at those meetings. I'm like, oh, they hired this person because I wrote articles, but I've never thought. You're right. Why are you doing it only for this department and nothing else?
Yeah.
Wow. Huh. Right.
We kind of got off on a tangent.
No, you're talking about the taxes.
Yeah,
'Cause
taxes,
that's
yeah.
important though, right? Because
Yeah.
that's the shared services, right? So we're talking about shared services.
Trying to cut costs and find that kind of always trying to find ways to lower the tax burden on the residents. With that lower burden, we still have stuff that we have. Like, for example, like I said, we have the two bulk waste days, so that I would love to increase that to maybe 4, but that all depends on when we go out to bid, and that's a whole different story. We have the fireworks shows. Like last year, we hired a full-time control person for the construction department.
Okay.
We did the additional inspectors. Now the Casano Center offers new programs like Zumba, chair yoga, chair aerobics for the seniors. A couple more classes. I mean, we have the volleyball outside. Granted, that's volunteer and everything,
Right.
but I mean, we have the Memorial Day parades, all of the events that we have in
Right.
town. They're all part of the budget. With the free parking on Chestnut Street, which is an issue, in my opinion, that
Do you think the credit card issue may start to address that? Because that was one of the issues, right? Since most towns now, like you go to Elizabeth Broad Street, there are no coin machines. It's just
Yeah.
one centralized.
or if you go to
Cranford has it.
Westfield, Cranford, Summit,
You walk to the place, you put in your number, you put in your credit card, or you put in your
Or your
coins,
quarter,
and
yeah.
you're done, right? And we don't do that.
we don't do anything.
We have on the streets we have the old style parking meters
Yeah.
and our municipal parking lots, as opposed to paying to rework them.
Yeah.
We're just gonna leave them.
So my thing with that is, you look at those towns and they all charge for parking, and those Westfield, Cranford, Summit, and some parts of Elizabeth, they're nice areas, and people want to go there and shop and eat. And that
I mean,
kind of
even
stuff.
because Broad Street, I know Broad Street does that in Elizabeth, and it's always full.
Yeah.
Right? You're never like, oh, I'm gonna get a parking space.
Like Cranford and Westfield, you're like, oh, I'm never gonna find us. Oh, definitely gonna find a spot here.
Right.
But that definitely needs to be addressed,
Okay.
because that getting those new meters, I mean, they may cost a ballpark maybe $50,000, but how long until those pay for themselves?
Right.
And for there's taxes, bottom
Right.
line, we're always looking for ways to
And what do you say to people who are like,
or stabilize.
just put a development up? That's gonna cure our taxes because we'll get money from them. Give
Well-
them pilot, give them whatever they want, as long as I get my taxes cut. Whatever.
This has to be the right development. I'll go back to it. It has to be the right
Okay.
development.
All right.
You can't just put up
So you're
anything
standing your
for no
ground
reason.
on that when someone says that. Just you want to lower my taxes, put a development up. I don't care what it is.
You don't,
'cause-
but here's the thing: you don't want anything up there. Like, I don't care what it is. You do care what it is,
okay.
because this is still your town. This is still
You picked this park as opposed to Roselle or again Union or Kenilworth.
Yeah.
You picked this for a reason, right? There was something so it did matter, right? Because then
Yeah.
it matters where you live.
It does matter, and
Okay.
you want to be proud of where you live.
Okay.
So
We were talking about obstacles that you saw. You talked about their own obstacles and changing your priorities.
yeah,
But what do you see as obstacles in the future for having your objectives met? And I'm talking more of like with working as a part. Like you said, 17 and 18,
Yeah.
night and day. How did you work in 17? Like how did you go through understanding that you had all these obstacles from
because
infighting?
there's so many factions in
Right.
the council last year.
So how did you make it work to get through that year to get to now? Because if you didn't, right? If you had said, forget this, they wouldn't be 18, and you said 18 was a great cohesive year.
Yeah, we've done a lot.
Okay. So how do you work with differing views for whatever reason? From
Yeah.
someone telling you to your face, I don't care what you put up there, as long as it's a Republican thing, I'll say no. To someone saying, look, I genuinely believe
Yeah.
this is no good.
Mhm.
How do you work that to get to an objective that they either a compromised one, but a goal that you want to reach?
Simply, you maintain an open mind,
Okay.
and you can't. And this has always been I always get into arguments with Jess about this, about never closing your mind to an idea or something until it actually happens. Because if you don't have that open mind, then you're not going to listen to maybe someone over here who you were like, oh, you know what? I've never thought of that. That's actually a good idea. Let's try and incorporate this into the idea. Or someone over here that has another idea. Always have to maintain an open mind. And actually, I learned that in high school from my woodshop teacher, Mr. Ragucci.
Okay.
And he's the one who said, the people who are successful in life are people who are open-minded, who are open to new ideas from different people, because you're biased in your opinion on what you think. I'm biased in my opinion on what I think is going to make Roseville Park a better place.
Right.
Because it's my plan, because it's my
Right.
baby. To where someone may not agree with me, obviously, and that's fine. I welcome differing opinions. We welcome differing opinions on council.
Can you give instances where that's happened while on council, like real instances where like you've had one idea, someone on council came back with another idea, and you've kind of worked it where you're like, oh, thanks very much, but this is exactly what I want to do. Like, have you had compromises with things on council? Or have you just been blessed enough to not get to those points yet?
Well, off the top of my head, I would have to think about it, because off the top of my head, nothing's really coming to mind.
Okay.
But perfect example, a good example is with the joint sewer.
Okay.
Now, granted, it definitely changed my mind. I mean, it wasn't from like a sitting council member, but it did. I didn't know anything really about joint sewer until I got into council last year, and just with the salary thing, and no one was making reports or anything. And we did have to compromise. Well,
Okay.
We had to compromise on, as council, on how the reports would be given.
Okay.
Because initially I wanted it to be written email reports.
Right.
And how it stands now is it just says submit a report.
Right.
So you could either say at a council meeting, or if you want to write it in. And there were people on the council at that time who didn't want the language in about written down.
Right.
So it's like, all right, you know what? That's fine, because
Okay.
we're still meeting the objective of you have to submit a report.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, and
Because it's on the record, it's written down.
it's on the record, even if you talk about it in a council meeting.
Right. That's on the record. It's written.
Yeah.
It's transcribed, put in. Okay.
Like
And you're
I
pretty
try my
detailed
I try my best.
in your reports, right? You're like, this is what happened. We need to talk about this. You actually even had them come in.
We had the joint
for a
meeting come in,
presentation
yeah.
about a huge expense and the fears of government supporting it, funding it.
Yeah.
And what happens if it doesn't? Okay.
That was a huge deal. That's a big deal.
It is, right? That's $90 million.
99, yeah.
About $100 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
And the big issue with that was if FEMA is going to reimburse
They always said they do,
Yeah.
but then parties changed. Everyone was like, sorry about that, a new disaster came. Goodbye.
Yeah, but and that's the thing. Who's ever had a good experience with FEMA?
Okay, so that's an instance with the whole reporting of us. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, New Jersey Transit, that's one. You got involved in this. I mean, the mayor got involved, the councilman got involved. I mean, we've had it for the long-standing. New Jersey Transit train station looks the same. I'm sure it was in the 80s.
Yeah.
Right. No elevator, nothing. All the walls. It's a part-time station.
Yeah.
Right. You don't even have a full-time staff there anymore. So, can you talk about the practice or lack thereof with everything from parking to renovations to repairs to the one-seat ride, which just got, and I'm using air quotes, temporarily discontinued.
Yeah.
So, a lot of the progress with, and for those who weren't unaware, there was progress of we were going to renovate the station. We were going to have these stained glass kind of things. We were going to have 88 handicap. We were going to have different parking. We were going to have done parking lot. We were going to have the Ryan property. We were going to have one-seat ride, and all those things as of today are basically non-existent. Yeah.
So with the train station, they were actually getting ready to put the shovel in the sand and actually start doing their repairs when it was last year, but we found out that they weren't going to make it ADA accessible, because we found out with the Arts Festival, and we did a little bit more digging with NJ Transit, and we found out, and we were like, no, you can't do this. So they have to pretty much start the whole process over again, redo the architecture, everything.
I'm gonna just put a little light for you.
All right.
So-
Another one?
Yes.
Yeah?
So that whole process has been slow, and
Has it been frustrating for you as a
Extremely frustrating. It's NJ Transit is the thorn in my side.
Really? It's like the one that's really.
Oh my! Because every single time every single time I think that they can't do something stupider, they do it.
So yeah, they were gonna put it was a go.
It was a go, and now
then
it
the
all
mayor's
has
like,
to get done.
and rightfully so.
Yeah.
Hey, I just found out that we had a group of artists have to basically walk here and get
From Union train station, because it wasn't ADA
we
accessible.
have no ADA accessible.
Yeah.
And we were going to feature them as artists in our street fair to
Last
show
year.
how diversity we were.
Yeah.
But our train station was absolutely uncompromising in doing that.
Yeah.
So then the NJ Transit went, oh, that's a good idea. We'll start. that was it.
And it's a mess. And look, and one of the good things about the Transit Village process, our great NJ Transit is a part of the Transit Village Task Force team.
Wow.
So they had representatives come down with us
Okay.
too. And I think that Transit Village will help us with our one-seat ride,
Right.
because we won't go from a secondary train station, we'll go to a primary train station, because we will be a transit village. And it's a state designation, and it would be
And the word transit is both of the words that you need,
Yeah.
NJ Transit and Transit Village.
It would be behoove of NJ Transit to invest in the train station at Roselle Park.
So are you saying that you, as if like a bureaucrat, have to deal with bureaucracy to get things done?
Yes. It's a mess. There's no easy way to say it. They're just a mess. And granted, like they have the Raritan Valley Coalition, we have the
I mean, there are
a bunch
number
of
groups.
advocacy
Right.
groups that
Right.
are fight, because again,
I mean, you have the president, right, and
Yeah.
and even the governor before with the tunnel, right, and it's all
The
it's
Gateway Project.
Yeah, the Gateway Project, and it's all kind of
stalled.
interacted, but it's not right.
And then getting back to NJ Transit, it's not like NJ Transit isn't just a Roselle Park issue. There's a lot of towns in New Jersey that are experiencing exactly what we're experiencing in Roselle Park. So, trying to, I guess, motivate NJ Transit to move on our project, but then again, I understand the process, and I know that there is money set aside.
Right.
There is money set aside for the train station project. It's like
Right,
$3.5–4 million.
It was budgeted in. It's
Yeah.
it's on a line
It's
item.
happening. It's
an
happening.
actual line item.
Yeah.
It's just the happening.
It's the happening part is the difficulty. So I guess if I want to fix NJ Transit, I might as well run for governor next year or something. And then for the parking, since there is limited parking at the train station right now.
Another
Yeah.
contention of commuters.
Yes. So, and the issue we found out was people from different towns, their parking lots of their train stations are becoming full. So these people from out of town are coming to Roselle Park because word of mouth, hey, Roselle Park has parking still at their spot. So they come, so the earlier people, they get the spots, and then
Right.
the people come 7, 8 o'clock.
Who live in town?
Who live in
Like,
town.
let me go to work on the train.
Yeah, and there's no spot for them. It's like, well, what the hell am I going to do now? But we created for lack of a better term, a parking committee
Okay.
through the finance committee. We've been searching.
Mm-hmm.
We looked at boxcar. We looked at maybe like a jolly or something, like going from where the Loretti Park is,
Okay.
where that parking lot is. Maybe
Yep.
like shuttling people there. Maybe we designate that as additional transit parking, because it is only a 5–10 minute walk from that park from that parking lot to the train station. But we approved at the last meeting or 2 meetings ago a plan for the Ryan property temporarily until they decide to, you know, present the plan to mayor and council about what they want to do with their property. So,
And that's to provide that off-street park. Because what's happening is, and just, so the people who have always parked there, who live in town, just want to drive their car over, especially in the winter, right? Because
yeah,
like, you know,
because you don't want to walk
to
in the
walk into
snow.
town or the rain,
Yeah.
they don't have a parking space anymore.
Yep.
They're like, well, I got to park somewhere.
Yeah.
And they park on streets which have permit parking. And then people who are on those blocks are like, so it's becoming an ever expansive problem. now,
Yeah.
Right. It's not just, they're gonna find a parking, whether they get a ticket or not, they don't care because it's like, look, I need to go to work.
Yeah. My salary is more important than a
Right.
$60 parking
Right.
ticket. So we sent the agreement over to Tim
And
Pat.
is the train station in your ward? It is. So,
Yeah.
So that you've had experience with this before.
And a lot of people call about the permit parking by the train station because I can't even park in front of my own house because, you know, you have commuters here parking on the street. Why aren't the police department, why aren't they ticketing people?
Right.
And sometimes it's difficult to explain, like, you know, we do have a limited amount of police officers on patrol
Right.
all the time, and that's another question
Right.
for there. So we'll get back to that then. But we said we signed an agreement with Tim Pat, who is in charge of the Ryan property. Until they figure out what they want to do development-wise, we are going to lease. They're going to lease that property to the borough so we can get additional parking.
Okay.
It will be, I believe, 53 parking spots plus 3 ADA spots. And people, for Rosa Park residents only, we can dictate that. So people will go to the clerk, they get that permit, they can park in that parking lot. The only thing that we would have to do is for the ADA parts, parking spots, we would just have to pave them and get the signs so people obviously know that they're handicapped. And we would just have to get the, excuse me, I don't know what they're called, but the things at the end of like a parking, like a parking spot.
Okay.
Those like car stoppers, I guess. That's
Okay.
maybe
Yeah.
that's what they're
Yes.
called, those concrete
The
car
bumper
stoppers.
cars.
Yes.
The
Yes.
poles.
Yeah.
Yes. You have them at Borough Hall.
Yeah.
Yes.
Those things. Those things. So, and the only thing we have to do is just, the only expense to the borough is the lease. It's going to be $1,000 or whatever it is, but it benefits the commuters to Roseville Park who go to the train station there.
Benefits the residents, right?
Benefits those residents. And it's not about, I mean, we'll still break even, like the town will, like it won't be an added cost because we'll make that money because we will charge, whatever, it's like $3 I think a day for the permanent parking at the train station. We're not going to overcharge or undercharge for the regular train station, so it'd be the same $3 or whatever. And we'll just spray paint the lines. The DPW will have to come and clean it and all that stuff too. They'll have to maintain it, but yeah, it's in Tim Pat's hands right now. They just have to sign the agreement, and then we can get a move
So at least
on it.
at least something will be.
At least
right.
it's a temporary fix. 50,
Okay.
so it's temporary,
All right.
which is we would like to see a permanent thing.
Well, hopefully, if they get development right there, I mean,
See what we talk about.
you'll have desirable parking issues, right? Where people
Yeah,
will
we
be wanting
want to park there.
want to park there all the time.
Yeah, good point.
All right. So budgets we talked about, and you've been involved in that. We talked about that, and the taxes in that. The other aspect are audits.
Yeah,
So those are where someone comes in and says, "Hey, town, we need to review this." And over the years, there've been some times where it's like everything's okay, and there are other times where it's like, "Can you tell me?" And that's the important thing for elected officials to read.
yeah.
Can you give me your thoughts on the latest municipal audit and the findings for that?
So, our last audit for 2017, there was no corrective actions or recommendations from our auditor, which is good. It means that we're doing
Right.
our job. So, 2018, we had corrective action for fire prevention because fire prevention, they're not doing their job. for lack of better terms, they're not inspecting businesses and places like that to see if they're all good to go fire prevention wise. Meaning, so for example, we'll throw, I don't know, Valentino's. They have to come in and inspect to make sure that the grease hoods or like the smokestacks, that they're good to go. There's not any obstructions. Sorry. Basically, making it safe.
Now, did the audit find that they weren't doing it, or that they weren't getting charged, that there was an income coming in?
There was both.
Okay.
Well, I would have to look at it again, but there was definitely that they were not getting an income for it.
Because for every inspection, there's an actual fee. It's just like with anything.
Yeah.
It's the price of doing business, right? Like you had said in the town. It's like for when you have an inspection, when you want to build something, there's a permit fee, and there's a fee for an inspection.
Yeah, and those fees aren't therefore paying for those fire prevention officers and stuff.
Right.
Things like that. And there are towns, like Kenworth is a good example, who they do a good job with their fire prevention, and they're able to do some like good stuff for the Kenworth Fire Department.
Okay.
And we're still working on the corrective action.
Okay.
We dug deeper into the issue, and it's a lot bigger than we anticipated.
All right.
And we're working on it, but it's very.
So you find the audits are important then?
Oh, they're very important.
Because, and again,
It protects the borough. It protects the borough from potential liabilities.
And also point something out that you made. Like, let's say, I remember a couple of years ago there was an issue where, again, this was just a technicality. Mm-hmm. Money needed to be deposited within a certain time.
Yeah.
After being given to someone. Mm-hmm. And it was found out, it was like a 48-hour, and this recollection, I could be wrong, but that wasn't being done. And that wasn't being done for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. But the audit said, I'm just letting you know, that's the law. You need to do this.
Yeah.
Our records show that this was handed in, and the bank was sent this way. So that needed to be addressed because someone could come in and say whatever, right? And it could be anything from a check to cash.
Yeah.
Right? And the law's there for a reason. Mm-hmm. So it was corrected. And it's nothing that you knew, and it wasn't anything nefarious. No one was like stealing or kiting checks.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm just too busy.
It's just another set of eyes to make sure that we're doing our
And you welcome
doing our
that.
job. Yeah, of course
Okay.
we welcome
All
that.
right.
The
Okay.
more eyes, the better, because you get more perspectives on how you're doing.
Okay.
And a lot of the corrective action stuff is, if you don't correct it, then you're going to be open to
Right.
like
Right.
lawsuits and
Right.
stuff, and you don't want that. And that's
Okay.
part of being a good council person or being a good mayor or being a good leader is you have to take into account that the United States is a very lawsuit happy country.
Okay.
And I could fall off this chair and sue the restaurant. I can say, oh, the leg was faulty, that's why I fell, and you knew about it, and it's a mess.
So as mayor, you think so these kind of audits and these things are important.
Yes.
Not only for lawsuits, but also for reasons. There's a reason. Why is it the income coming in?
Yeah.
Is just to ask that question, right? Because that question needs to be answered. That's a question that does need to be answered. Why isn't income coming in?
Exactly,
Why are
yeah.
people being charged? Right?
Why are they not being charged?
Why were they not being charged? Right? So that's a question that needs to be answered, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it could be a very legitimate reason. But the fact that the audit brought that out makes that important enough to be discussed.
Yeah.
Okay, so you welcome that kind of thing. That's
of
that's
course.
actually, for like, it could be a differing view because someone came in and went, you guys aren't doing this correctly. All right.
Well, it's good because if always open to someone helping out, because it's like, oh, you're not doing this right. Okay, good. So how do we do it right
Okay.
if we're not doing it correctly?
Because the audit also doesn't say, you did something wrong, you're screwed. It's like, this is what you need to do. It's a corrective action.
Fix
That's what
it,
they're called.
yeah.
So they give you even the template on how to
Yeah.
address it. It's like, this is what you need to go do now.
Yeah.
Okay.
And no one's perfect. So.
Right. Okay. And now, just as a council person, is there anything you think it could have been during your time here that you could have done differently? Or do you think, and as mayor, when those issues come and you have that hindsight, do you think as mayor you'll be able, and that's why I'm asking in real life because that's a good gauge to go by.
Yeah.
how will you go back and say, oh, your own corrective action? How could I have done this differently? And with things like that.
Oh, well, I mean, in hindsight, you're always going to be like, oh man, should I have done it that way? You're always going to second guess yourself until the end of time. But what I've learned from my experience in the Marine Corps and on council is everything happens for a reason.
Okay.
And because I can't go back and change something, doesn't mean that I necessarily regret it.
Okay.
Because it does happen for a reason. And at that time, I did it for that reason. So I wouldn't regret anything that I've done on council already.
Okay.
Because of that fact,
Do you think you've learned from things? That
yes,
okay.
and you learn from it. You don't dwell on it. You take your notes and you try not repeat history,
Okay.
and you learn from it. It's all life is a whole learning experience, and so
Like you had said when you went
council.
in, you had, hey, these are the things I want to do, and then you had said priorities change, and you're like, sorry folks, I can't do the advisory committee.
Yeah.
Because I'm doing something else. And if someone says, I'm going to vote for you as mayor because the advisory committee, will go, okay.
Yeah, so sorry,
But, okay, all right.
but yeah, that's it.
But you learn
The
from them,
minute
and
you
you adjust, I guess. You use what you're
Yeah,
saying.
you adapt and overcome.
Okay, all right.
You can never. This minute you start second guessing yourself, it means you're going to start second guessing yourself in real life and in the moment, and you don't want to do that because sometimes it's life and death, and you can't second guess yourself.
You don't move, and if you don't move,
No, if you freeze, you're
if
dead.
you move left, you might die. If you move right, you might die. If you stay where you are, you absolutely die.
Yeah. Yeah.
A chance is always better than the certainty.
Yeah.
Okay, now the big one, or at least the one that has the most. That'll
Big
encompass a lot of them. Yeah, it's everything. As councilman, and if you're elected mayor, there's things that are going to happen that are going to be important and also newsworthy. Right?
Yeah.
And you'll have to learn the difference between both. Sometimes something that's newsworthy
It's
is
not necessarily good.
important, and vice versa.
Yeah.
But on council, you've had the kneeling soldier monument, the Christmas tree lighting, removal of the Rosal Park First Aid as the borough's first responder, new borough clerk, new construction officer, backyard chickens, a change in the awarding professional contracts, townwide reevaluation. Although you weren't there, were you there for the vote?
I wasn't there for the reval, the kneeling soldier, or the Christmas tree.
Right. But
The reval was in 2015.
Right.
And I was
In-
not. I ran for council. My first year was 2017, so 2017 and forward is me.
but we've had like the grease traps, we've had the nail
Yeah.
salons, we've had the tax appeals again coming back.
Because of the reval.
Because of the reval. Can you touch upon these? And for you, which was the most important of the ones that you were there for? So in other words, first aid, the chicken.
Well, the one that definitely made the most noise was the first aid squad topic. That's definitely. It's definitely the most polarizing out of the ones that I've been involved in.
How do you feel about that? As just as a man, the fact that there are people who are genuinely hurt, right? That they feel like it was just swept under them, and they just have a hard time understanding because they did nothing wrong. And we can both agree, right? The volunteers, they didn't do anything. They did nothing wrong. They did their best,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And they wanted to help lives. They do it for free. I don't think any of them would say, I'll let someone die because I'm no longer first.
Yeah.
It's in their instinct. That's who they are.
Yeah.
And they let that outlet through this volunteer.
Yeah.
It's been for free for the town.
Yeah.
And I guess you'll explain your decision on, there was a decision that needed to be made. It was made. It was polarizing. It still leaves hurt feelings, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure there's people who will look at you who will just turn the other way, and you have to deal with that.
Yeah.
So let's talk, I guess, since that's the most polarizing one.
Yeah.
The first aid. If you could give some background on that.
So the issue started before I was on council, and I'll go back just from talking to past people who are on the fire department, past council people, past first aid people, past police officers. But this issue started a long time ago. I'm not going to talk about before I was on council because
Right, you weren't.
I wasn't there, so I
Right.
can't really make decisions on it. But when I got on council, the first aid squad was our first responder from Sunday to Sunday, from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. That was their responsibility. The days were taken care of by the Union County EMS.
Okay.
So Union County EMS was already doing 12 hours a day for coverage for the borough. The issue came up that the first aid squad, the issue initially came up as the first aid squad was a little bit of losing, didn't have like the manpower, didn't have the people to actually do the job. So they were looking at different alternatives to make it better to where they could actually have full coverage. So we
Okay.
could have like the full coverage. And one thing led to another. We started getting some statistics from the police department, from the county, that the first aid squad wasn't answering all the calls. They were it varied on months, varied on days, 50, 60% of the time they weren't actually going to answer the calls. And then another neighboring town or maybe Union County EMS would have to answer the call. And it left open a huge possibility of liability for the borough. Let's say, God forbid, someone had a heart attack and died, and it turned out that first aid squad didn't respond, like Rosa Park First Aid Squad, and it was on their time. The person can sue the borough
Okay.
because they weren't on time, and so that was definitely an issue for us. And we talked about it in closed for months. Everyone on that council, everyone, mayor, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, council at large.
This is one of those closed sessions that you were
Close to,
talking about.
Yes.
Where you had lost your knowledge, your composure, became emotional.
well, the night I got a little emotional the night of
Okay.
the vote.
And that was, I think, July 30th. It was like the date.
July 20th.
July 20th, yes.
It was the
It was the
July
last meeting
It was the-
before it would take effect.
Yeah.
Right.
So the reason, we were talking about how can we correct this? How can we fix this? And the leadership of the first aid squad was not being responsive. They were acting like nothing was wrong with 50, 60% like answer rates. So we came down to it, and granted, this probably doesn't happen without the police department, the police chief's approval, the fire chief's approval, and the mayor's approval, because he's the face. If there's something wrong like that, look for an outside person to help out. And Union County First Aid Squad said, we'll come in, we'll do your full-time coverage.
Okay.
So you guys aren't liable. Because that's an issue for Union County as well, because for one, they fully run and operate out of our Rosa Park First Aid Squad. That benefited us because they went in and completely modernized everything in there. So now it's a state of the art First Aid Squad facility. In the event that we want to go back to a volunteer First Aid Squad
Okay.
or something like that. So we don't change our first aid responders without the approval from the fire chief or the police chief.
Okay.
And they were both on board.
Okay.
And all of council knew what was at stake. That if something happened and the wrong person was unfortunately got killed because of the negligence of the first aid squad, then that's on us. That's on Roosevelt Park, and we're getting sued. It's one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't moments.
Right.
So the night of the meeting, obviously it was very tense. We kept going and closed back and forth. Captain McCaffrey represented the police department. The fire chief, Joe Signorello Jr., was representing the fire department. And it was kind of the police department, fire department, and council bringing like the facts and showing them like our stats, like, you know, this isn't good. Like,
This is the information
this is the
I'm
information
basing
we have
on
from
reading. Right.
from multiple agencies. You know, why aren't you doing your job? But it's not the fault of the rank and file of the first aid squad. The reason why there's no first aid squad right now, well, volunteer first aid squad, is the lack of leadership that was displayed by their leaders. Because and this goes back to, and it did happen to where someone did unfortunately die from
No response.
no response.
Right.
And that's why Roosevelt Park had 12-hour shifts from the county every day. It was just an escalation, and
So it went from a 24-hour to 12-hour,
to,
and you're saying even with the 12-hour, it wasn't. You would think it would get better,
it didn't.
and it didn't.
No.
Okay.
And they were trying to get. One of the reasons why they said that they couldn't get out and do the calls was because they didn't have anyone to drive the rigs. They tried to get the fire department to run the rigs, and the fire department, you know, they're doing their own volunteers.
And they're volunteers as well.
They're volunteers as well. Like if there's a fire, they have to respond to a fire.
Right.
They don't. I mean, they definitely have the manpower, but they don't have bodies to spare like that.
Right.
So it kind of there was back and forth, and you know, it was like this. The sense from me, from the leaders of the first aid squad, was that nothing was wrong, like with what we were presenting, and that's when I kind of like just got frustrated because I mean it was the big elephant in the room. Someone died a couple years ago because of this. Like, this is unacceptable. Anything under 100% when it comes to saving someone's life is unacceptable. And I said that as a Marine because, you know, for 4 years, that's all I dealt with was life and death situations. And practicing for life and death situations. And it's unfortunate that they're now no longer our responders.
So what would you, if you had an opportunity to have them in the room and they give you an opportunity to talk to the rank and file, and say, you hurt me, you have no idea how devastating this is to me. This is all I'd love to do it. I not only would I do it for free, I did do it for free.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I brought babies into this world. I've stopped women from dying. And I feel that we were never given a chance. That this was predetermined. You just wanted us out. It was a little backroom deal between you guys in the county. And they let it all out.
Mm-hmm.
If you had an opportunity to talk to them in earnest, what would you say to them?
I would tell them the process, and it wasn't just a midnight deal. We've talked. It's almost like the same way we talked about the economic development director. It was the whole. We talked about it all 2017 in closed session. It's not like we can.
I mean, records show that since the November of the previous year.
Yeah, they were talking about it still.
They were actually brought to a public meeting. The head of the first aid.
Yeah.
And they had proposed this plan.
Yeah.
So right. Okay.
And it was just. I mean,
Is this one of those hard decisions that you had to make? But you had to make it. Or
Yeah.
do you feel like not being callous, but do you think this was an easy decision, or do you think this was like a hard decision to make?
No, it was absolutely a hard decision.
Okay.
I mean, I am a volunteer.
Okay.
It's hard. It's heart wrenching because it's been a staple of Roosevelt Park for 75 years. But you also have to look out for the entire borough, and and this is where it comes in, damned if you do, damned if you don't, because yes, we did get rid of the first aid squad. People are obviously hurt about that. But on the flip side, what if we didn't get rid of the first aid squad and someone died because they didn't answer? That's as a responsible...
Or had just been in a car accident. I don't know what the car accident. I
Yeah.
suppose she wasn't, and the first aid was here, and she needed assistance, and they never came, right?
Yeah.
And that's personal to you, right? That it's always personal to somebody who's having a loved one in danger of dying.
Yeah, and that's the... I guess that's the big thing with that is it definitely was a hard decision. I mean,
Okay.
it was hard, but it's one of those... There's a reason... That's one of those reasons why many people can't, like... No, not many people want to be a council person or be a mayor. Because there are those tough decisions
Yeah,
that have
right.
to make that are extremely unpopular.
That, absolutely right. It was, right?
Extremely unpopular. If I was if I did it based solely on I knew that it wouldn't get me votes if I ran for re-election in third ward or something, or if I ever ran for a higher office, I would have said no, absolutely no, because I'm losing votes there.
Okay.
And honestly, and it did get, in my opinion, it did get turned political because the two people who voted no knew the risk they knew the risk, and they turned it political. And you saw it in last year. It was because that was one of the big hits on Joe DiOrio he's the husband of Thaw Shipley who got rid of the first aid squad. When that's not the case. It's going to be a thorny subject for the rest of the
Yeah,
lives.
right.
It's
Yeah,
unfortunate.
like
It's definitely unfortunate. And,
Right. Okay.
But we don't do that. We do not make that determination without Chief Morrison, Chief Signorello, without their
So you had
approval.
because and then there was some in the first day who were saying, well, the data that you gave was faulty. So you're saying we weren't solely basing it on data. We were basing it on professionals whose lives are also to be. Those are the other two first responders.
Yeah.
Right. It's fire, police, EMS.
Yeah.
So you based it also not only on the information you were given, but the testimony, for lack of a better term,
From our
by the other
professionals.
two emergency responders
Yeah.
who are in that life and death daily situation, right?
Yeah.
And they gave the recommendation of this is unsustainable.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's really been brought up before what you had just said. I think even for me, like I just thought that's what I was looking at the data. I'm like, well, what's the data? And someone told me the data is flawed, but I had never even maybe I heard it, but it didn't catch with me that there were. And you're correct because they were in the room in the closed session.
Yeah.
There were the heads of the two other responding services giving you. So it wasn't like at the end of the day where it's like, one person said yes, one person said no. Everyone was
Okay.
experienced. And I think it's important for people to know.
Yeah,
Right?
everyone
But
was
unfortunately,
experienced.
like the mayor, you're the face of that decision,
Yeah.
right? So as mayor, do you see yourself being, although uncomfortable, and like another one, so like the construction vehicles, that was a little bit of an issue where the fire department came in and it earnestly said, look, I'm driving trucks that are falling apart too. What does a construction need a 4x4 for? What do they need that for?
Yeah.
So, and do you see, since you're and you can't have a vote, right? So in that instance, you wouldn't have a vote unless it came to a tie.
Mm-hmm.
So as mayor, you would be able to, you'd sit there and maybe perhaps, let's say you were mayor, and it came down to a vote, and it was 4-2 to keep the first aid for whatever reason.
Yeah.
You now don't have a vote, and you have to. Now you're the face of that. How do you live? How do you deal with stuff like that? Right? Because that's important. Because as mayor, you have nothing, and if it's 4-2 for anything, development. Let's say it's development, and it's not the right development in your estimation.
Yeah.
It goes 4-2. It becomes the right. You now are the face of that decision, even though you publicly say, "Hey, man, I never would have voted for that." And I said, "Yeah, but you didn't," right?
Yeah.
How do you deal with that aspect of being mayor, of basically strong council, weak mayor, of being the face and the signator of decisions that you might not even agree with. How do you deal with that being mayor? I mean, that's an important question, right? Because now you have to sit there and either go grumble, grumble, grumble. I'm telling you, folks, this is really bad. But 4 people who were elected said it's good.
Yeah.
So,
And you know what? That's why it's democracy and not communism
Okay.
or a dictatorship.
so you're aware that might happen
Yeah.
at some point.
And you know what? That's fine.
Okay.
I'm not going. You're not. As mayor, if it's council's decision, it's council's decision.
Okay.
I'm not going to go and undermine it. If
Although technically you can't, you can veto it. You can just sit there and not sign it, and then it goes into some constitutional thing, which would be fun to do, but not really. But so okay, that's important to know because as mayor, some people think, well, it's my way or the highway, but you pointed out at the beginning, it's a strong council.
a strong council week mayor, and you are, and that's it.
Okay.
And you can, the mayor can pitch the idea and all that as much as they want.
Right.
But you need at least 3 people to agree with you.
And that's a cohesive talk we were talking about, getting
Yeah.
others to. I guess it would be your job to get those get those people to say, hey, really, 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 really think about this.
Yeah.
Okay.
And to actually to take everything, all the external factors, to take out party and personal beliefs and all of that, and just make a vote on what's in front of you, black and white.
Okay. All right.
And try your best to do that. And because you have to, as a responsible elected official.
Right? You're going to swear to do it, right? Mm-hmm. Not just until I feel comfortable with it, and then I'm going to find a way to undermine it.
Yeah.
Okay. That was very important because that's a good test of a mayor, right? You could have someone who just cries and goes home and ends up being completely right.
You can't do that though.
Okay.
You have to roll with the punches.
Okay. All right. And this was a question from one of our residents about the police officers and policing, and they feel the basic question is quality of life issues versus arrests, and so officers are stationed along Westfield Avenue, stopping motorists for minor offenses, ticketing them for drug paraphernalia, small amounts of narcotics, and there are other quality of life issues, and this resident in particular was the crossing of streets and people not stopping for pedestrians, especially at night by the train station on Chestnut Street, and other things. What do you feel is more important as a priority to benefit all residents? The quality of life issues, because drug arrests, especially for marijuana in this day and age with legislation.
Well, we'll get into the marijuana at the next question.
But drug offenses versus other quality of life issues. Where do you place priority?
Priority. Both are important.
Okay.
Until the state says, okay, pot's legal or whatever, it's still the law. You can't do it. But until then, now granted, it's not that. I think that the quality of life kind of stuff, like the people not stopping for pedestrians, for the car accidents at intersections and stuff, that's definitely very important too.
Okay.
And so even in the last 2 years that I've been on council, I've been constantly with the police department trying to improve pedestrian safety, improve driving safety, because all these intersections are all my ward. That
Right. Yeah.
Roselle and Chestnut,
Yeah.
Clay and Chestnut, Locust and Clay.
Locust, right? Yeah. Locust is another one, right?
Locust
We
and
did
Lincoln.
an accident on Friday.
Yeah,
right?
on Locust and Lincoln.
Yeah.
And the part of the problem is people can't see going east-west. And granted, people fly. Let's be honest, people fly on these streets like Clay, Webster, all the ones that go east-west. because they're trying to avoid
Avoid the lights on
Westfield
Westfield
Avenue,
right.
or they're trying to avoid the lights on Goblin Hill coming from Elizabeth
Right.
or something. So it's tough because these motorists, granted, they're always in a rush for whatever reason. Why can't people just slow down is beyond me. But their vision, trying to see the traffic along Chestnut or Locust, is impaired because either it's cars that are parked, maybe it's a tree they can't see behind, or whatever the factor is. But the fact is, there are accidents. Maybe people don't even see stop signs. I mean, I don't tell you how many times I'm driving down Chestnut Street and there's some person who is coming out halfway through the intersection and almost hits me. Like, come on, what are you guys doing? Like, make a right and then go around or something, because it would probably be easier. But it's definitely an issue, and I've tried to correct it on those streets by, I don't know if you've noticed, on Roselle and Chestnut, we have the flashing stop sign now.
Yes, I saw that.
Well, stop signs. And I asked, so the process usually is I email the police department, like, hey, because it happened, the last time it happened was I had at my college graduation party, and someone came to the party, like, there's a big accident at the intersection of Roselle and Chestnut. So I walked over with Jess just to look at it, and just asking the motorist, like, what happened. He's like, the person just shot across the street, and the lady said she didn't see the stop sign, which is beyond me. So I was like, all right, so if that's one of the issues, then people need to, you have to see it.
And others are blinking.
A blinking stop sign that's solar powered.
Yes, we saw that. I'm like, oh, what is that? So yes,
But
and it does get your attention.
It does.
It does get your attention. You cannot ignore it.
Even during the day too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Which is good. And so far, knock on wood, there hasn't been any accidents at that intersection. So the police department, the DPW is going to install them at Chestnut and Clay.
Okay.
And we are working on Locust and Clay, and then Lincoln and Locust, because it definitely is an issue.
Okay.
And
so you're saying they are being addressed, those kind of.
yeah, those kind of issues.
I'm calling them like, but they're actually public safety.
Yeah, public
Because that's
safety.
someone who's going to get hurt. We've had a fatality in Westfield, unfortunately.
Yeah.
We've had on Valley Road a teenager. Again, just now on Locust.
Yesterday, or no, maybe
It's Friday. It was on.
Friday. The kid got hit on
Yeah.
Park Place
Yep.
because the guy was flying down the road, and I guess that might be another societal thing or a cultural thing. I don't know, because lately it's just people flying.
I think it's a lot of it's distracted driving. Is
that too.
Your phone.
That too. Yeah.
Right? I mean, we live in a lounge where your phone is. You hear a
phone
beep
is
on your
everything.
phone, and instinctively people just, even when they're driving, it's like, like exactly, and it's a second, right?
Yeah, that's why when I'm driving, I put my phone on the other side,
Yeah.
on the other seat, so there is not that temptation. But they are being addressed, and I've been having discussions with the police department almost all year about flashing stop signs. Because
So as mayor, do you think you'll be addressing that more if elected as mayor, and even as a council person, right? So,
Yeah.
and just to make people clear, this is not a winner take all. It's not like if you don't win mayor, you're out as councilman. You're still
I still
you're
have one more year on
You're still on council.
Yeah.
Right, it's not like, oh, goodbye, well, we're going to get someone else for the job. You're
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
So a lot of these topics that we're talking about, you can still work on, if not elected as mayor,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
you can still do the safety. You can still do all these things. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So, and that particular, like, pedestrian safety, and that ties in with complete streets too, because complete streets, all that advocates is safer streets, and also with that AARP grant that we tried to we didn't get, unfortunately, with the bike path.
The
and
bike
stuff.
path. Okay.
But it's all about safety of the people is definitely a priority, and part of that safety is definitely, I don't know, maybe if it's an educational kind of piece, talking to drivers, saying slow down, maybe.
Or a flashing light in their face.
Yeah.
Because that dude. I'm telling you, Because we go to the gym in the morning and I take Roselle.
Yeah.
So on the way back, we take it back, and I'm like, oh, there's that.
Yeah.
Like it becomes
Sign.
an effort. Because I'll be honest with you, I don't like the light on Locust, right? So I make my left
Yeah.
coming back from the gym to avoid that light.
Yeah.
So I'm like, it's like everybody else, right? I'm like, oh, I just want to hit the light, and I'm like, oh, there's that light. I stop. And you're right, it does get your attention.
Yeah, and a part of that issue with the intersections, what I envision, and and like you said, I can work on it as council, and I can work on it if I'm elected mayor, is because right now those intersections, the yellow lines, either A, aren't painted, or B, it's only 25 up to 25 feet at the intersection.
Okay.
So 25 painted 25 feet
Either
out
way,
to
okay.
keep that egress or to keep that line of sight when you're crossing the street, because this is a safety matter. But also too, maybe potentially increasing the amount of
Oh, the distance.
maybe like 40 feet, or
Okay.
maybe increasing the feet that way, and then also too clearing the obstructions. Like for example, trees. Now-
Hedges, bushes.
Or those, and like bushes and stuff like that. So, but if you get rid of those trees, we have to replant them in different different places in town, because I'm a big tree guy. I mean,
Okay.
let's be honest. If I, with the sustainable Jersey and with the green team and everything, trees are. I mean, trees. We're a tree city too, and
Right.
people specifically came to move here in the '90s because of the trees. I've been told that by people.
Right.
In Roselle Park, like, well, that's interesting. I didn't think that would really attract people here, but that's great.
Okay.
Big questions next.
Oh yeah. So as we touched about it before, the legalization of marijuana, although it's still federally illegal, states are taking it upon themselves to legalize it for medicinal, not only medicinal but recreational use. New Jersey, it looks like when it first came in, it looked like it was going to be immediate, but
Yeah.
eventually this is going to
Yeah.
happen.
It definitely will.
And what are your thoughts on the legalization of marijuana?
So, and let's see how long it takes the state to actually do it. Because you're right, it's happening.
It was right.
We're gonna have to. We're gonna at the municipal level. We're gonna have to
Right.
tackle it. And depending on what they do, what kind of structures they put in place, am I for the legalization of marijuana? I don't have an opinion either way. As long as the state and the town, we put those structures, we put those things in place to protect the well-being of people. For perfect example, and everyone makes this comparison, is alcohol. So with marijuana, how are you going to determine if, like how you have a blood alcohol content in your blood?
Right.
How are you going to tell if a driver is driving high, or driving under the influence if they're smoking pot? What's the determination for that?
Right.
There isn't it. Well, there is, but it doesn't. It's not like a breathalyzer where
Right.
it just happens
Exactly.
right then and there. So, and decriminalizing is the first step to legalization. So, and you know what? If you're getting arrested for a dime bag, there's something wrong with that. That's like getting arrested for a shooter, like alcohol or something.
Okay.
It doesn't. It's not. Doesn't make sense to hold up someone's life like that
Okay.
for a dime bag.
Okay.
Or anything like that. It doesn't. It.
Right.
And I guess part of my opinion, like I don't really have an opinion on it, is because I don't smoke it. I don't know. So, and the thing with like legalization, well, with like medicinally and like legalization, there's still my biggest thing is, if the state is going to legalize it, do it right the first time. And get all of your structures, get all of the groundwork laid down first, with whether you want to tax it, with the rules and regulations on if you're driving a car, like everything you have to do with alcohol.
Right.
And there's also, because people always point to, marijuana helps people like medicinally,
Right. Right.
and that's That's true. It is therapeutical, but there's still so much more research that we as humans have to do on marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
Because let's be honest, there isn't that much.
Right.
I mean, people can throw whatever kind of details they have,
Mhm.
but there's almost no research on it. So slow and steady. Let's not rush it.
Right. I mean, because it's going to affect everything in the municipality from, like you had said, you know.
And then it'll open the question: do we want to allow marijuana dispensaries in town? Are we going to allow like a marijuana cafe? I don't know. I'm just guessing of
Everything
what
from,
kind of
like,
businesses
right.
how you have hookah lounges.
Right.
You're gonna have a marijuana lounge. So there's
So you understand that's going to happen, but you just want as much research done on it as possible.
yeah. I want when they roll it out. I want them to.
You said roll it out.
No pun intended. So when they present the plan, the state better have all the loopholes taken care of. It should be tight, not really up for a debate. It's black and white, like how it is for alcohol, and it needs to be safe.
Okay.
Especially for not only for the person consuming, I guess I don't know what goes into marijuana honestly, but regulate it like it's alcohol, because if you do drive
Right.
while smoking pot, you are impaired. Your reaction time is slower.
Right.
Same thing with alcohol. So it makes sense to have those structures in place before you actually do something. Yeah.
Like, and how would you test for it? Because so the marijuana, right? It takes time to get out of your system.
Yeah.
And so you're a bus driver for school.
Yeah.
Friday you got up Monday morning. How do we know the last time, right? So right. So there's a lot of pitfalls, but it's something I guess that as a society we have to address.
Yeah.
And I guess
'Cause
other
it's coming.
countries that have it legalized, how do they address it, right?
Yeah, and that's a good thing. And that's another piece of advice I'd give the state is look at not only look at other states like Colorado, but look at other countries and see what their laws are. Because the
Because
more
they-
information you get about something, the better educated decision you can make.
Well, thank you very much for the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And in closing, is there anything you'd like to say to listeners?
The listeners. Well, if you stayed this long,
Well, I do break it up in parts, so it'll be sections and there'll be the whole interview. So some people want to hear about legalizing the pot, and they'll go right to that.
yeah, click.
But the closing ones will always be the statements that people will want to hear.
Yeah. Just thank you for your time, Saul, and thank you for listening. Don't forget, election is November 6th, and I look forward. Hopefully, I have your consideration. I can't force you to vote for me or any of that stuff, but just make the best educated decision when you vote as possible, because it's not only my vision or my future, it's also your future. So it's going to determine the direction of this town for not only the next 4 years, but maybe for the next generation, because a lot can happen in 4 years.
Yes.
So,
All right. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate
yes,
it.
thank
Thanks.
you.